Except 3, may I know who are you? Can you introduce yourself? You are from?
I'm from Kerala.
Kerala.
Andhra Pradesh.
I'm from Andhra.
So that I can speak in both languages, English as well as in Kannada. If there are people are from Karnataka, so I could have speak wherever possible. I could have used Kannada only. But anyway, so I would like to thank Dr. Sitringa Somanagodimat and CMDR for inviting me to stand before you to share some of the little knowledge that I am having with you in the next 2 sessions. So I just want to know how many of you are pursuing PhD now? Almost all are your person. How many of you have completed a PhD? 2. Okay. So how many of you are from economics background? So anybody from sociology?
No.
Law, you're from law.
Three.
Commerce.
Commerce. Anybody is from sociology, political science? So majority of them are from economics and others from law and commerce. Okay. So I think today is 12th day, right? 12th day?
Yes. 11th day.
Okay.
12th day.
Okay. So what actually you asked from 27th to till now, I guess there are some studies and so there are some tools we might have learned related to the analysis of data in social science. So anybody knows econometrics? Can you please raise hand? Anybody? Econometrics. Okay.
Prior to that also, we have some knowledge.
Okay, very good. So that I can get into in a simple way. See, when it comes to the social science research, it is always. Please, can you stop your typing and all? Can you listen to me so that we can have answer time later? Okay. So if you are listening to me, so that I can see you all and I can see your expressions and I can see your beautiful minds. Okay. So what actually social science research is all about is that, so we are going to deal with the humans. Okay. So when we are dealing with the humans, that means we are examining the behavior of people who are, their behavior will change frequently. That means we are going to study the behavior of human beings in the non-linear way. Non-linear method. In mathematical economics, we used to have 2 kinds of functions. Number one is
Linear.
okay, linear. The other one is
Non-linear.
non-linear. Okay. Non-linear method. So linear in the sense and understand about. So linear means anything that we are going to study, so that can be generalized for each and every one, right? So that is called linear function. So where we apply each, usually we think of everything is in the form of linear. So, but we are living in a non-linear world. So here, so what I would like to say is that when we are studying the linear kind of functions in the non-linear world, so we have to make some kind of assumptions. So we have to make assumptions. So without assumption, it's very difficult for us to generalize the things. Okay. So when it comes to the law, so law means it applies to each and every person in those who comes under the jurisdiction of the law, right? So when it comes to the economics and commerce, so whatever the study we do, so it may be applicable to somebody, say someone. The same thing may not be applicable to the other also. So in such a way that, so basically the social science research things, what we have to understand is here that we have to understand the kind of sample that we take. When we are going to do the study, so there are two things which comes under our mind. So one is the population, the other one is the sample, right? So anybody is doing working on the case, the primary data? Anybody? Can you please raise your hand? Okay. Anyone who is working on the secondary data? So So when it comes to the data or sample, when we call sample or data, the sample will be taken both for the secondary as well as primary also, right? So while we are taking the population, when I say population, so it is a targeted population. The area that I am going to, the subject that I am going to cover, right? So for that, so we are going to have sample. Sample, it may be a few numbers, it may be a large set of data. If you are studying the stock market, so our companies, it may be a large set of data. If you are studying NSSO, say National Sample Survey Organization, so it will be more kind of data that you are going to study, right? So the sample that matters. So what type of sample you are going to take. So how much sample that you are going to take. Why I am telling, because so when we are going to do the, as the topic of this refresher course or capacity building says that, so how you are going to use the tools for what? For what you are going to use. At the end of the day, you are going to use the tools for to analyze the data. So the first thing is, so what type of data you are going to select, working on. So number two is, so what nature of the data is there. So whether it is in econometrics we say that there are three types of data. So number one, time series data. So the other one is cross section data. So the another one is panel data, and the another one is, fourth one is pool data. So we say that there are four different types of data. So I guess some of the research persons, they might have covered the time series data, right? So the data which were collected at different point of time. So that is called as time series data. So let's say for example GDP, okay, so unemployment data, inflation data, so money supply. So these are all we call it as time series data. Okay, so when it comes to the cross section data, so we are going to collect the data at particular point of time. So that means, so at particular period, at particular point of time, we are going to collect that. For example, census data. So when you look at the census data, so once in a decade we are going to collect those kind of data, right? So we are going to compare between different decades and different places at a particular point of time. So that is called as cross-section data, we used to say that. So, and another major kind of data is that, so pooled data, we say that. Pooled data means it is a combination of both cross-section and time series data. So why do we call it as pooled data? What is the difference between panel data and pooled data? Anybody knows that? Economics?
In cross-sectional data,
No, I'm asking what is the difference between pooled data and the cross-section data?
it also considers the time period, but cross-sectional considers only the different forms it covers it. But in panel data, it covers the period as well as the different entities of forms.
Any of the opinion related to the difference between panel data and pooled data? So I'll tell you in a simple way. So panel pooled data means we are going to combine both cross-section and time series. It's as simple as it is. Okay. So when it comes to the panel data, it is a special type of pooled data where we are going to have the same kind of data for across the time period and across the space. So across the space and time, we are going to have the same set of data. So that is called as panel data. So when you are going to do some kind of when you are going to combine both states with respect to investments or anything, or number of crimes in a particular state, if you combine both crime records in a particular state, different state, and what is the trend, what are the different causes. So that time we are going to have panel data. Okay, if you can say that number of suicide across the state. Okay, so what are the reasons for suicide? So for suicide there are different reasons, right? So for the different reasons, what are the major causes for the suicide? So we are going to take across the state, across the years, different years. Okay, if you can take the data in Japan, so there are majority of the Japanese they die because of high workload. That means they die, they take a suicide because of one is the kind of work they do, then the another one is loneliness. There are two major factors. So these are the factors you are going to combine in panel data. Okay, so if you are using the data in a such a way, you are going to use panel data. So pool data is not a much kind of things that we are going to use, because we have to give a generalization of what we called as equation. I think regression they might have covered it, right? Regression book is there. Okay, so regression I guess you might be knowing. The regression is nothing but what? So it is a
Relationship between cause and effect.
cause and effect. Very good. So regression is nothing but it's a cause and effect between dependent and independent variable. Okay, so before regression, we are going to see what type of correlation that exists. I think correlation you might be knowing, right? Correlation means what? What's the major difference between correlation and regression? Very good. So in case of correlation, what will happen? We are going to see the degree of relationship between X and Y. Let's take demand and price. Is there a relationship? See, when you are going to set up a relationship, you need to know that whether is there any relationship between two variables. Okay. If for example, number of crimes and in a city and the demand for lawyers. If higher the crimes, higher the demand for lawyers, isn't it? So there is a demand, there is a relationship. If there is no crime at all, there is no need of lawyers at all, isn't it? So what I would like to say is that if there is a relationship, then only you are going to make the statement of the hypothesis. We call it a statement of the theory. We call it a statement of a hypothesis. So see, in any research, so you are going to make a kind of study. You must need to know that. So there must be some kind of relationship. Whether it may be as you said, it may be positive or it may be negative, right? So if you are taking the negative or positive side of regression, so then only correlation, then only you can get into the regression. Okay. So before regression, the major thing you need to understand about the statistical tools, what you call when you are applying tools. So you must know some kind of techniques in statistics. We call it as, there are two types of techniques. One is descriptive statistics, the other one is inferential statistics. Okay. So do you know what is the difference, major difference between descriptive statistics and inferential statistics? Very good. So the major difference between descriptive statistics and inferential statistics is that in the descriptive statistics we are not going to make hypothesis, as you said, and in inferential statistics we make a hypothesis. Okay. So then what is the role of descriptive statistics? See, almost all of you are using some kind of hypothesis, right? Hypothesis. So we might be using hypothesis. The hypothesis says that, so hypothesis means the statement. Whatever you take the things, we call it as statement. So statement comes from where? Statement where the statement comes from?
Statement comes from the observation.
Statement comes from where?
The relationship. Two variables. Research problems.
Before research problem, what comes? Before that?
Literature.
Very good. Review of literature. Okay. So you are going to formulate the research problems or research question based on the literature. That means theory. So you have to thorough with your theory first. Okay. Unless and until you are not thorough with your theory or concepts, so you are not going to do any kind of a proper research. So the number one is you have to thoroughly study the review of literature. Why? Because before getting into the tool, if I don't know the theory, what I am doing, so it does not make any sense for your research. Okay. So the first and foremost thing in social science research is that you must know the theoretical background of your area of research. Okay. So the number one, that is the number one. So after knowing the theory or literature, you are going to make the research problems, or we can easily call it as research gaps. Okay. So if you make the research gaps, what they have not covered other than that you are going to study, so that makes it more important. That gives you the contribution to your area, whether it may be in law or whether it may be in commerce, whether it may be in economics, any kind of area that you may take. So that means, so you need to, before getting into the hypothesis, you must know the literature, then only you can make a hypothesis. Before making the hypothesis, you must know that what type of relationship that is having, that kind of variable is having, whether is there any positive relationship or negative relationship. Okay, so when it comes to the hypothesis, as I think you might be knowing that there are two types of hypothesis. One is null hypothesis and the alternative. Okay, so for alternative hypothesis and null hypothesis, we are going to make two types of error, type 1 error and type 2 error. Anybody knows that what is type 1 error? Very good. So rejecting the null hypothesis when it is true and accepting the null hypothesis when it is false, type 1. So most of the time, which type of error we use in our research? Type 1 error, right? So that means, so we always say that the null, that means there is some relationship. Okay, so the what I call, so higher the urbanization, higher the crime, isn't it? So what do you mean with that? So if there is a urbanization, there is a different types of crimes that will exist. Okay, so that means there must be some kind of relation. We are going to prove that. So that means we are going to reject the null hypothesis always. We are going to say that there must be some relationship. Without relationship, if you can say that, sir, I don't have any relationship with this kind of workshop and my research, you can't say that. There must be a relationship. Okay, so you have to identify the relationship. Based on the identification of the relationship, so what you are going to do is that, so you are going to make the statement, hypothesis. Okay, after making the hypothesis or statement, so what you are going to do is that, this one, right?
Open.
See, so what we are going to do is that, so we are going to make the hypothesis. So based on the hypothesis, so we are going to make the specification of the hypothesis, right? So that means theory, you might have understood what kind of theory that you are using, and whether the theory may be true or it may be false. So we don't know that unless we go to get the data. After getting the data, we may make the validation or we may reject it, right? So this kind of things that comes under research. So after making the statement, the second thing comes that, so after making the, what I said as a hypothesis, the next comes that, so what is the specification of your research? What are the variables that you are going to take? What are the indicators you are going to take? For example, if you are taking the relationship between what you call sales in a company, the determination of sales in a company, or what are the determination of growth of a company, performance of a company. So there are many factors, right? Number one is you can take sales. Okay. Number two is productivity. Okay. So number three is advertisement expenditure, right? How much advertisement expenditure the particular company is spending. So number four is the kind of branding. Okay. So the brand image, how you have created your brand name. So we call it as HHI index, Ashman index ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿ talk. So we call it that. So these kind of indicators you have to mention. We have to come out with the indicators. Indicators means what? Variables. Variables. So variable means the things that is going to change over a period of time. Okay. So the variable means there are two type of variable, that is dependent variable. The other one is independent variable. So when you're going to adapt the tools and techniques of any kind of statistical or econometric tool, you need to know what type of indicators or variables that you have adapted. You have to identify that first one. So dependent variable and independent variable. So the dependent variable means the value of a dependent variable that is exclusively depend upon what? The outside the model. That is independent variable. So exogenous variable, independent variable means the thing, but the value is already fixed, but the variable will vary over the period of time. Okay, that is called as independent variable. So if you are considering independent variable and dependent variable, so then you can see the what type of relationship the two variables have. Okay, so if there is a relationship, positive or negative, we don't know that, but after knowing the relationship, if there is a relationship between two variables, then you go for regression analysis. Okay, unless doing all this kind of homework, if you're directly getting into the research and directly if you're going to estimate the regression, so it does not make any sense. We call it as speculative spurious regression. We call it as spurious regression. Spurious means meaningless regression. Okay, so that's why what I'm going to suggest is that first you have to thorough with your review of literature, then you have to come up with the research gaps. Based on the research gaps, you are going to formulate the objectives. So based on the objectives, you have to formulate the hypothesis. So why I'm telling all these things, because if there are some students will be having 10 objectives, okay, but that student is having only 3 hypotheses. So you are having 10 objectives, but you are having only 3 hypothesis. What about others objectives? How do you validate those objectives? Okay, how do you prove that, verify those objectives which you have left out from the hypothesis? So that means whatever you are having the objectives, you have to on par with the objectives. You have to have hypothesis. Okay, these things you should need to keep it in your mind. So based on that, so today I am going to cover. So what are the econometric tools for data analysis in social science? So something they might have covered it. So how many of you are using Stata? That I want to know that. Stata, anybody is using Stata? So which software you are using for data analysis? Spaces. So what type of data analysis you are doing? Anybody, can you please? So that I can get it what you don't know that, so that I can cover those things. Time series. Spaces. Almost we have used spaces. Other than spaces, EVS and Excel. Okay. So today I am going to explain how Stata will be more different from the other softwares, because so these softwares are, it's a type of programming software. We call it as programming software. So how we can use those kind of software in research, that I am going to explain. So these are some of the theoretically I'll explain in a few way, in a very little bit way, with a more in a simple way, so that you can understand. Though you are from non-econometrics background. How many of you studied econometrics in post graduation? Can you please raise your hand? Okay, only few members. No problem. So others can also, I'll explain in a very simple way so that you can understand the econometrics. So I covered these 4 major things in econometrics: methodology of econometrics, and wireless estimation of methods of estimation, and CLRM assumption, and goodness of fit, and R square. Okay. So before getting into that, so I want to know that when you are using primary data, okay, primary data means it's more on qualitative nature of data, right? So when you are using the secondary data, it is more of quantitative nature. Okay. So those who are using qualitative data, my sincere suggestion is that, so you start with the descriptive stats, for both secondary data. Those who are using both secondary data as well as the primary data, you need to use descriptive statistics first. The reason is that the descriptive statistics gives you the glimpse of your raw data. Okay, whatever the type of data you are having, whether you have primary or secondary, first thing you need to do is that you need to do descriptive statistics. So and it may be in the form of graph, or it may be in the form of different kind of techniques like mean, median, mode, standard deviation. Okay, so maximum and minimum observation. Okay, what are the total number of observations are there? Can anybody tell me what is the major difference between mean and standard deviation? What is the major difference? Why we use mean for research? I'm asking you from the research point of view only. Okay, what is the major difference between mean and you might be knowing, right? Mean means average.
Average.
So central measures of center tendency. Okay, so standard comes under the measures of dispersion.
Dispersion.
So what is the major difference between the dispersion and the center tendency?
How the model values different from the values. Like, for example, if there is a mean is 50, the first term is 55. So what is the difference between the first term and the middle term? That is measures of dispersion.
Okay, very good. And so in theoretically she is saying clearly, but I want to know from research point of view. See, if you are going to have some descriptive data, right? This is something where you are estimating the data. You might be having some descriptive statistics like mean, standard deviation, and you might be having maximum value, minimum value, number of observations
Yes,
from your data. So the major difference between mean and standard deviation is that the mean will explain you what will be the average salary of A company, okay, or B company, or what is the average life expectancy of North Karnataka, okay, or what is the average life expectancy of in Andhra Pradesh or in Kerala, okay. So that will give you the average only. But what is the limitation of mean is that it cannot explain how the data is varying, how much the variation is happening in the data. So that you must need to understand. Okay, so for that sake we use dispersion. So that is called as variance. Because it is how the data has been varying. You might be meter collectors different way data. See, some of the research might have a monotype of data collection. That means you will go to the study and you will collect the data. All the respondents said yes, yes, yes. That means what? There is no any variation at all. That means it is one-sided kind of results will be there. So if you want to know that mixed this kind of result, so you need to have some kind of variation in your study. Okay, if there is no change in the GDP from last year to this year, then there is no differences in the growth at all, right? Isn't it? There must be some variation. So that variation will be measured by standard deviation. That means measures of dispersion. There are different types of dispersion that we measure. That is, one is range, the other one is quartile. So, and the other one is mean deviation and standard deviation. I think you might be knowing standard deviation was advocated by Carl Pearson. So where he says that standard deviation is nothing but the sum of the square deviation from its mean value, right? So what standard deviation will value says that. So when you are presenting your result, you need to know that what standard deviation says that. Standard deviation says that so higher the value of standard deviation, higher the variation. Okay, you must understand those things. Okay, you have to write in your thesis. So what the standard deviation says that. So higher the variation higher the value of standard deviation indicates higher the variation in the data. If there is a higher variation means what? What you have to do that? You have to recheck the data and revisit the data. Okay. Okay. So because we always think that there must be a variation, but the variation should be low. So while you are doing research, you should not have more variation. If you are having more variation, then we are going to have outliers. Outliers, you know what do you mean by outliers? So what do you mean by outliers? Extreme values. Yes. So extreme values. For example, if you can say if I ask you that, so what is the per capita income of Bangalore when it compares to Yelaburga in Karnataka? There is a huge difference. So we need a small variation. There must be a variation, but it should be very small, so that we can have accurate results. So these are.
If mean is low, sir, then standard deviation may also vary with mean value, right, sir? So is there any?
No. It is. Now, can you repeat once again?
As the mean varies, standard deviation may also vary, right? So when
Mean won't vary. Mean vary with the
value of mean, I am saying if the value of mean is low, then standard deviation may also come low, sir.
How can you say it low? It based on what? It based on what?
Say, sir, if
The mean value based on what?
we are taking the mean age, then
No, you are taking mean based on what? We call it as central mean tendency, right?
yeah,
Central mean tendency means what?
more
It's an average,
average, sir, average.
isn't it? So the major difference between dispersion and average is that, for example, I can in a simple way. Okay, Virat Kohli, he scores every match 50, right?
Yes.
We call it as a more consistent batsman. When it compares to MS Dhoni, where he scores in a 1 or 2 match, he scores high score, and other match he may be the poor with the 0, right? So who is a more consistent batsman? Well, both scores 500 in a 5 match, right? Who is their average value is same, but when it comes to the consistency,
Yeah. Coefficient of variation.
that's what I am saying. Standard of deviation, that is CV, that comes coefficient of variation will come. I am not talking about the covariation. I am talking about only the standard deviation. There is a difference between coefficient of variation and standard deviation. You know what is the difference between coefficient of variation and standard deviation?
Coefficient of variation, it measures.
Major difference. See, these are the small things you need to understand. While doing, see, we have i5 software, but without knowing the basics of the techniques, it's very difficult to analyze the data. So the major difference between coefficient of variation and standard deviation is that higher the value of standard deviation means higher the variation, right? In case of coefficient of variation, what will happen? Lower the coefficient of variation, that means higher the variation. Okay, vice versa. So that will happen. Consistency. When you are going to getting to the consistency, so there is a difference between coefficient of variation and the standard deviation. So after getting into these things, so we come to the next part is so graphs. So I'll talk to later. Let us get into the econometrics. So econometrics. So basically we use it's a combination of 3 things. Okay, one is economic theory. Okay. So in economics we say the economic theory. If you are from law, you can use law theory, right? If you are from commerce, you can use commerce, different kind of theories. So in econometrics, we say that it's a kind of combination of 3 things. One is economic theory, mathematics, and statistics. Okay, so it's a combination. We call it as what we call it, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara. We call it as in a simple way. In a simple way, if you want to understand, so we need all 3 things. So Brahma means creator, right? And the theory. Theory has to be created, right? So without knowing the theory, you can't execute it, right? So Vishnu means what? You are executor, right? So that means you need to know some kind of mathematics, how you can execute, specification of the model, how you can specify the model. Okay, I can't say destroyer, I can say protector. Which we call it as Ishwar. Protector, I can't say destroyer, it will protect us. Who will protect us? The data. And the analysis will protect our thesis. So what I have to say that, so econometrics is a three different combination of 3 things: economic theory, mathematics, and statistics. And another thing is econometrics is a major thing nowadays. You can apply for any kind of subject. In any kind of subject you can apply econometrics. It's not only for economic theory, but also you can apply in case of law, psychology, and other things also. So, and another major meaning of econometrics is that empirical verification of, we are going to make the empirical verification of the theoretical phenomena. So theoretically, if you want to check any kind of theory, empirically you can use econometrics. So it is the Greek word that came from metrics. So metrics, I think you might be knowing mathematics. Metrics means it's an array of rows and columns. Usually we say that. So rows and number of rows. So 2 into 2 matrix means secular matrix, we say that. So where 2 rows and 2 columns. Okay. So everything is in the form of a matrix. The importance of applied work in economics is increasingly improving. So theory suggests that so x affects y, but so it may be true or it may be false. So then we have to use the applied econometrics. So what is econometrics means? So where we use it's a modeling. So long-term relationship among, for example, between price and interest. What is the long-term effect? Okay, so between prices and interest rates. So and the second one is examine the effect of inflation on in unemployment rates. So there is a called as Phillips square, right? So it talks about what is the effect of inflation on unemployment. So these are all things we are going to examine, and examine the effect of disposable income on consumption. Basically, I think in economics, those are from economic background, they might be knowing Keynesian psychological law of consumption, right? What Keynesian psychological law of consumption says that it is nothing but, so as income increases, the consumption will also increases, but not as much as increase in the income. So that is called as the Keynesian psychological law of consumption. So if you are going to test that one, so it will be very easy. So what it gives two things. A theory then what we can verify, empirically verify, two things we can verify. Number one is what? Multiplier effect, we can verify, and what is the effective demand, that also we can be verified through Keynesian psychological law of consumption. And you can also come to know how much the savings will be happening if there is an increase in income. Okay, so these are things we are going to, and another thing is determine the factors that affect GDP per capita growth. So what are the factors that influences on GDP? Today, if I can tell you that Karnataka giving 5 guarantee schemes, right? Okay, so Shakti Yojane, Gro Lakshmi, and Yuvanidhi, Gro Jyoti, isn't it? So why Karnataka is successful in implementing guarantee scheme rather than Himachal Pradesh? The question will arise. Being a social science researcher, the question will arise: why Himachal Pradesh failed, or they are becoming bankrupt almost? So why Karnataka is doing very well? Why our CM Siddaramaiah sir is presenting a very well budget without having any kind of complexity in the funds? Can anybody give observation?
They have experience for that.
Very good.
And other places they are increasing. Groceries and all. It's also
Anybody else? And this is some kind of observation you can make.
Sir, Karnataka has more potential of generating income.
Very good.
GST.
GST.
Then Karnataka has the sectors of economy. So Karnataka has all 3 sectors of economy in a very good quantity or good number. So we have good at agriculture, we have good at industry, service sector. So
Very good. The question is, I think all of you, we got an answer from all of you only. See, the major reason is that our GSTP is much higher when it compares to other states. Gross state domestic product. So we are having around 32 lakhs crores of GSTP. Okay, because of that only you could able to have, implement, as you all said, that GST, the revenue is increasing, and we are able to impose some kind of higher prices in different sectors. So people are ready to pay. If they are not ready to pay means, then there is no tax collection at all, isn't it? So that means why I am telling, because so when you are saying that, so what are the factors that are affecting GDP means, as your friends said, sir, primary sector, secondary sector, and tertiary sector. Okay, basically in Karnataka, so the 60% of the incomes from tertiary sectors. Okay, so what are the factors that influences? When it comes to the Himachal Pradesh, so you can observe it. The more income the Himachal Pradesh is getting from tourism, rather than any other contribution of even Kerala also, right? So some part of Kerala is also their tourism is a major contribution. They are getting contribution for GDP, GSDP. So another one is forecasting the correlation among returns and the stock index. I think in the last previous class you might have covered with the time series data. I think some resource person might have talked about what exactly, how we can do the time series data and how we can forecast it. Forecast it means what? So based on the previous data, we are going to forecast the future, right? So that things can be studied. So whatever I said, it's in the definition only. So I'm not getting into that. What is the scope of econometrics? So basically, econometrics is a estimation of economic relationship. We used to say that, but it's not only economic relationship, but you can also have a social science relationship. What is that? For example, I can tell you one best example. I think last year, December, I think there was an election in the US, right?
Yes, sir.
There is a the fight between whom? Joe Biden and Trump, right? So, see, there are political factors. See, while electing in the US, there was a survey. While electing Trump or Joe Biden, what are the factors that will determine? What are the factors? For example, if I ask a question, who will elect the president? Joe Biden or? Kamala Harris. So earlier one is Joe Biden and Trump Harris, right? So who are going to elect? Let's say Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris is basically, see, I think in US there is a kind of racism in there, right? Color racism. That will also influence us. If you are a black president, so if you are going to elect a black president, what is their view? And if you are going to select the white kind of person, if you are going to select, what will be your perception? The perception will be different. See, what you are, where it comes under the sociological factors. Okay, so there are factors like socio-economic status. What is the socio-economic status of the president? I think you might be knowing Trump is a businessman, right? So people might vote based on their socio-economic status also. So there are factors that also influences. And what is the attitude of the president? Whether his attitude towards is right or left, that will also influence us, isn't it? So these kind of factors can also be estimated through econometrics. So that means here you can see that what is the relationship. It may be a sociological and political and psychological factor also you can also estimate through econometrics. So the other one is testing economic theories and hypotheses. In econometrics, the major advantage is that you can also test the hypothesis and as well as the theories, and you can evaluate and apply economic policies. You can evaluate what kind of, for example, I can tell you one best example. MG Narega, you might be knowing. MG Narega means Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Scheme. And it's not a scheme, it's an act, right? So it came almost from last 5 years, right? Do you think the the act has been successful? It could able to provide, it could able to reduce the unemployment in the rural area?
Yes, sir.
Productive work in some states.
What are the reasons for?
Some local authorities also.
No, local authority has to implement, right?
Yes, sir.
At Gram Panchayat level only they have to implement engineering, right?
Yes, sir.
Whatever the constructing the check dam they are constructing, but after 1 year the check dam is collapsed. So this kind of the problems are there. But some states are very good conservation of environmental clarity, and example Haryana, these states, and Maharashtra, Satara area.
Okay. Any observation from your side? Why the engineering?
It differs from state to state.
Okay.
Some states are successful in implementing, but because the people don't have other alternatives of job opportunities. But state like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, people have other opportunities, and they in such a states we may not see some big impact of that act.
Anybody? He said no. See, the major crux of MG Narega is that there are two things that happens in MG Narega. Okay. So one is the funds will directly goes to Gram Panchayat, right, from center to Gram. Okay. So there is a huge increase in the micro level corruption. So number two is, so in MG Narega what will happen? There is a job card holders. Now they might be doing the work, they may not be doing the work. Okay. So now here I think in a workshop we are having around almost 20 members are there. Let us assume that. So if the 20 people are job holders, so out of 20, So 10 might be working, 10 might not be working. So this is a major failure of engineering. So job card, we used to say that job card. They gave some kind of job card. So 20 they issued the job card to 20 people. So out of 20 people, so 10 may come, 10 may not come. So these things are happening. And the kind of micro corruption that is happening, micro level of corruption is happening. So you can't able to imagine all those things. So that means you can evaluate and apply economic policy. What type of economic policy that we need to have? Okay, India has adopted into 1991. We have adopted structural reforms, right? So it is influenced by what? From the Western countries, right? European countries. So it has been influenced by the World Bank also. So that means if you are applying any kind of policies, so what exactly that policy will indicate? Whether the policy can be adaptable or not. Okay, so I can tell you one best example. The Annabhagya Yojana, I think might be knowing, Karnataka. We call it as Annabhagya Yojana. That means giving rationing at a subsidized rate. It started at a pilot survey base. So they applied only few districts. They have taken few districts. Based on that few districts, they could able to apply. Execute throughout the Karnataka. So like that. So you need to evaluate first, and then you need to see what kind of impact that is happening. Okay. So then forecasting, as you know that. So what will happen in the next 2-3 years? So let me tell you one thing. So I think you might have studied the budget in Karnataka. I think 2-3 days past there was a budget presentation. You might be observed that fiscal deficit. Fiscal deficit of Karnataka is 2.95. Okay. So it is almost near to 3%. So according to the central government rules, what? It should not exceed 3% of fiscal deficit. Okay. So if it exceeds 3%, what will happen?
It's a burden to the states.
Borrowing?
It's a burden to the states.
It's burden to the state. Very good. Next.
It's really impossible to balancing that point. Deficit will be more.
Borrowing will be more and receipts will be
Less.
less. So that means the state will be in a bankrupt situation, right? So that's why they wanted to restrict a 3% of fiscal deficit. Okay. So that means, so if the states become bankrupt, what will be the influence of that state on throughout the country? Okay, it may have impact on the other country, other states also. So that means, so you have to keep the fiscal deficit and on par with the state government regulations, right? So that means you need to forecast. You are 2.95 there. So let us assume that. So to increase the budget size, they will automatically what will they do? They borrow. If there is no sources or receipts from the other sides, like from commercial tax and other tax, so they obviously try to go for borrowings.
Depends on
Other states, right? So how they are going to do that? So that is the forecasting. See, so I tell you one thing. We are in Karnataka. Almost all the districts are depreciating in terms of development expenditure. They are not getting all kind of development expenditure. What will happen if there is no development expenditure? What do you call capital expenditure? So what will happen? Automatically, there is a less generation of employment. Okay, production, and you can't be able to have effective demand. So those things can also be studied here. And the last one thing is, I think it applies to all of you, like all kind of social work, collecting and analyzing non-experimental or observational data. You can able to do non-observational data. Okay. So the main thing is, so the first and foremost thing is, so after Corona, okay, before Corona, during the Corona, let us have an observation. Most of the people they fly from Bangalore to their own villages, right? Isn't it? During Corona, so there is a more demand. There is no demand for rent at all in Bangalore. So what happened? The reason is that, so there is a thick and thin population that exists in urban areas. So due to Corona, they wanted to maintain distance and they wanted to protect themselves. So they fled away. So after Corona, post-Corona effect, what happened in Bangalore? The real estate prices, it has gone up. Because the reason is that the people want to be in urban areas rather than the rural areas. There is more demand for urban areas, what you call houses. There is more demand. So this kind of observation you can make out. And another thing is, so we can make another relationship between, as I said, then higher the urbanization, higher the crimes. Higher the digitalization, higher the cyber crimes. So these are the two things you can make non-experimental observations. And why do we need to have a separate discipline like econometrics? Because theory does not explain what exactly the mathematical specification of
So
collection.
study also done. Higher the crime and higher the.
Yes, there are studies. There are studies. You can check it. Isn't it?
Economic Bureau is.
Yeah. You can go to the Economic Bureau, Bureau of Statistics, crime. So you'll get a lot of data, and there are studies also. So mathematical economics. So see, if you go to rural area, there is a less percentage of use of digital transactions. So that means obviously there is a less cyber crimes, right? So the area will come, and at the same time the intensity of using the particular tool. So when it comes to the mathematical economics, we just say that what exactly it is that. So mathematics says that it's a precise, and so precisely we say that whatever the theory is there, we are going to explain in the form of precise manner. Economic statistics, it gives you the data, but it does not explain what is the validation of the data. So and the major thing is, so in econometrics there are 7 methodologies.
So what is the difference between the economic statistics and mathematical statistics?
See, economic statistics, what will happen? We are going to collect and process the data. In case of mathematical statistics, so we provide many tools for economic studies. We were not going to use all the kind of study tools. For example, if I can say an example, law of demand. Law of demand means what? There is an inverse relationship between price and demand. Right? So we are able to define the form of what? Linear function, right?
Yes.
So linear means what? So if the price decreases, obviously there is an increase in demand. Throughout the state or throughout the country, we say that. So if you are mentioning that y is a function of x or demand is a function of price, so there we are going to have functional relationship. In economic studies, we might not use those kind of technical relationships. So here, the mathematical studies, we use some kind of technical and quantitative analysis that will give you some kind of insights. For example, if I can say one best example, integration, or you can say derivatives. I think you might be knowing derivatives, right?
Yes.
Derivatives are calculus.
Yes.
So derivative says that what is the marginal change in the product.
Yes.
Okay. See, I can give best example. In the last 6 months ago, there is an increase in Nandini Haru price. In Nandini Haru, they increased the price. What they did? How they justified it? They increased the price from some 2 rupees or 3 rupees. Marginal rupee price. How the government has justified it? They said that we have given they will increase the quantity. They increase the some 2 ml or 3 ml quantity. See, that is justification. That is marginal change. See, still they are planning to see. I tell you one thing. If you are going to buy rice for 25 kg, then you have to pay GST. If you are buying 27 kgs of rice, then you don't have to pay GST. Look at the difference. So these are some kind of marginal change that affects the buying, consuming, and buying and selling. Okay, so these things comes under the mathematics. Okay, so in economics, everything is dependent upon the marginal cost, marginal revenue. Okay, marginal utility. Okay, we are all staying here because of marginal utility. Even I am sitting because of my own marginal utility.
Yes.
Isn't it? So marginal utility is more important than the total utility. Okay, so at the end of the day, what kind of research you have done is matter. It does not matter how long you have done it. So that is called marginal example. So when it comes to the methodology, we say that, as I said, it's a statement of theory. You have to make the statement. Any law, if you can take, I can tell you one best example. As far as law is concerned, there is we can say that there is a revocation of Kashmir Act, right? Article 370. Right? So what is the impact? No, not only terrorism. it improved the economic status of the Kashmiri, Jammu Kashmir, right? No, see there you have to look it from the, as you said, from the political point of view and social point of view and economic point of view. So that means you can make the statement. So post the recalling of a particular article, what will be the impact on that particular region? Okay, you can say that. So if you are going to bring a new law, so what will be the impact? See there is a change in the recently, there is a change in the IPC, right? They have changed the criminal law recently. So what is the impact on the execution? There is no change at all. Some section have changed.
What organized crime?
Organized crime. Okay. So when it comes to the commerce, we call it as insolvency, right? Right. Insolvency Act. So if you can take Insolvency Act as one of the major criteria, nowadays the banks, especially banks and all, they strictly follow the rules of RBI. If they are not if they are not following the rules of RBI, so automatically the RBI will disclose them as they'll say blacklist.
Blacklist.
Okay, so these kind of things you can make the statement. I mean, out of from economics, so you can make a lot of statement of the theory. So in economics, as I said, so Keynesian law. So that means, so at the end of the day, MPC, marginal propensity to consume. So I tell you one thing. So how much the money you have spent is not important. How much MPC you have increased, that is the most important. So that will increase the effective demand. See in India, if you want to improve the effective demand, then you have to improve MPC. MPC means what? Marginal propensity to consume. Marginal propensity means what? If there is a change in income, how much there is a change in consumption. Okay. If the government is giving 2,000 rupees to the woman or 2,500 something, how much they could able to change their consumption pattern. That is the most important. If that is not happening, being economic student, if I am observing that, if that is not happening, MPC is not increasing, then the scheme is failed. Okay. You can take any kind of thing, any kind of scheme. It has to improve the MPC. If there is an increase in the MPC, the effective demand automatically will increase. So this is the thing, major things that we need to observe in the from ancient psychological of consumption. Here the mathematics comes. First one is economic theory, and this is the second one. We are going to say that specification of mathematical model. Here I am specifying the Keynesian theory in the form of mathematics. Mathematics is a common. It's all about what? Addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. We call it as Bodemus. Do you remember that? Bodemus and Pendamus, right? So it's all about that. Like that, we are going to specify the model. Like y is equal to beta 1 plus beta 2 x. That means we are making the relationship, functional relationship between y and x. Y is a dependent variable, x is a independent variable. So what is the relationship between y and x will determine the cause and effect. So then what is beta 1, beta 2? Anybody knows that? Parameters means what? Parameters.
Independent. Dependent variables.
What is the difference between parameter and variable? What is the difference between parameter and variable? Parameter means unknowns. Okay. Variables means known. This is the major two difference between parameter and variable. So usually we call it as coefficients. Beta 1 and beta 2 we call it as coefficients. And then I think you need to remember these two differences. See, you can apply any kind of tools and techniques, but unless if you don't know that what is the difference, and you can't able to explain or justify yourself. Okay. So the main difference between known and unknown. So here the known variables what? Dependent variable and independent variable. So beta 1 means what? We call it as intercept, and beta 2 we call it as slope. So intercept means what? Constant. Means what? What it explains? When x variable is 0, the value of beta 1 will explain how things are changing. Okay, that's why we call it as intercept, or we call it as constant. Okay, see, let us assume that if there is no income at all, still we consume, right? If there is no income at all, if there is no income, still we consume it. Listen, for example, we can say that, for example, I can say that, sorry to say that, so there are some beggars will be there, right? They don't have any kind of income, still they're going to have some kind of consumption, right? So those three things will be explained by interest, and here you can see that. So this is a condition. We call it as condition. Condition means what? So the value of beta 2 lies between what? 0 and 1. Okay. So that means according to Keynes, from economic point of view, I am going to say that according to Keynes, the value of MPC, marginal propensity to consume, lies between what? 0 and 1. Okay. If MPC is near to 1, means what? Higher the income, higher will be the consumption. Okay. Higher the income, higher will be the consumption. If the value is near to 1, that means 0.95. If the value is near to 0, that means 0.10. So then we call it as lower MPC. MPC, that means what? Higher the income, but lower the consumption. You got it? So this condition will be imposed here. Okay. So that means the value of beta 2 lies between 0 to 1. It's like human development index. You might be knowing.
Yes.
The value of human development index lies between 0 to 1, like that. So this is specification of mathematical model. And then the next one is econometric model. See, so first one is the theory we said, and then the second one is mathematical specification. We say that directly I came into econometric specification. What about the statistics? Statistics means where it comes, you're going to collect the data. Okay, so major characteristics of statistics is that collection of data, classification of data, analysis of data, and interpretation of data. You need to remember that. What is the role of statistics? The role of statistics is that collection of data, classification of data, analysis of data, interpretation of data. Then question comes, what is the difference between analysis and interpretation? Both are same? Then what is the difference?
Analysis is what is collected, based on that we are able to analyze. But interpretation is not only we are interpreting our data, along with that some other outside connected.
Not outside, it's an inferential statistic. That based on the hypothesis that you want to make. You want to make, see, analysis means based on the actual data.
Actual data.
Okay. So interpretation means based on the sample data that you are going to take. The population will be there, but out of the population you want to collect some sample. So based on the sample you are going to interpret the data. Okay. Is there any relationship or not? Is there any, whether the data can be proved or not? So that can be seen here. So this is called as statistics. Okay. So here I'm specifying econometrics means what? So only one thing is major change is you can see that U. You can see that the difference between previous slide and this slide is that U. U means error term. We call it as U means what? Error term. So this error term is a major thing in econometrics. Okay. We call it as it's invisible, but still visible. Okay. So we call it as invisible, but it is visible. I can compare this U with the Shiva. Shiva means what? It's invisible. It's invisible, right? God is invisible. We can able to visible? No. So it's invisible. That means, so error term work like a God, according to me, because it captures the variable which were excluded from the model. I'll tell you one thing. So I'll repeat once again. The variable which were excluded from the model, so that is going to be captured by the error term. That is called as disturbance term. In a simple way, if I can say that. So you see, here we are having only two variables. Okay, one is dependent variable is consumption. The independent variable is income. There are only two variables. According to what? Keynes. Keynes, you know, Keynes is one of the most genius economists in 20th century. He used only two parameters, two variables to explain his theory. But according to common man, what are the factors that influences consumption? What are the factors that influences consumption? Not only it's not only income, but also
The other factors.
other factors like taste and preferences, quantity, quality, price, color, okay, and substitution effect. So there are plenty of factors will be there. So that has to be captured by, that will be captured by errata. So that we call it as U. See, U, the mean value of U will be always 0. I think 0 means what? In North Karnataka, Baswana, you might be knowing, right? What Baswana said? The ultimate goal of life is for gaining 0. Shunya Sampadane. We call it as Shunya Sampadane. Shunya means what? 0. So erratum value will be always what? Is equal to 0. But still it captures everything. Isn't it? Isn't it? So that means we used to call erratum as a God because it captures everything. Say in a human, you can take any religion. So there are two things. One is bad that happens to the bad and good things will be captured by God only, not us, right? So like that. So erratum is a major thing. So that's why we call it as it's a random. Random means what? Random means what? It may be everywhere. It may not be at a particular time. So it may be anywhere and any time. So it is stochastic variable. So this is a specification of econometric model. And the next and most thing is obtaining the data. You have to collect the data. You have specified econometric model. You are going to collect the data. See, collection of data. When you are using secondary data, I think those who are using secondary data, my sincere suggestion is that you won't get the data what you need. Isn't it? See, if you are working on the infrastructure, you won't get the data on infrastructure exactly. Okay. For defining infrastructure, there are different proxy variables. We call it as proxy variable. The proxy variable means what? The variable which are near to the core variable. So that is called as proxy variable. For example, so infrastructure is a variable. Let us assume that infrastructure is a main variable, core variable. We might not having the data on infrastructure at all because infrastructure is determined by different factors, right? So it may be economic factors,
Road connectivity,
isn't it?
transportation,
Telecommunication, and banking, isn't it? So which variable you will take? If you are working on the infrastructure, which variable you will take? Which one variable you will take? You need to take the proxy variable. That which is having the data. Either it may be banking or it may be road. Usually what we take road. Number of roads per road built in a day or in a year. Okay. So ಎಷ್ಟು kilometer ನನಗೆ so road na built ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ನಾವು ತಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. So that is called as proxy variable. Here you can see that here they have taken personal consumption expenditure. It's a proxy for what? Consumption expenditure. Here they have taken for income as a proxy variable is what? Gross domestic product. And it has been mentioned in terms of billion dollars, billions in US dollars. See, scale of measurement is very important. Whenever you are doing the research, make sure that both on right hand side and the left hand side variable must have same kind of scale of measurement. Either it should be in billion, or it should be in million, or it should be in rupee if it is in rupee, or if you are going to make it in the form of different measurement scale. I think there are the different measurement of scale is there. One is ratio scale and nominal scale, ordinal scale and interval scale. So based on that you have to make the things. So if you collect the data, so I think this is a collection of data. See, there are data from, sorry, this is sample period, we call it as. This is not a population, because we should not say that it's a data, it's a sample period data from where? From 1982, from 1991. So here the data are mentioned in terms of US dollar, in terms of what? Billion US dollar. So this is a Y variable and this is X variable. Okay. So, and the next one is, so after obtaining the data.
So what represents Y and X?
So Y represents your consumption expenditure. Okay. X represents your income. Okay. So you can see that, you have to look at the raw data. If you can look at the raw data in 1980, so the consumption expenditure is to 2,400 47. But income is 3,776. But in 1991, the consumption expenditure is 3,240 billion US dollar. So income is 4,821 US billion dollar. That means there is a variation, but we can't able to see the major variation, extreme variation in the data. Okay. So after estimation, how you can estimate the data? I will show you that. I think if you can able to download it. Will you download the data, or we can have a hands-on train after the break? Huh?
Just 1 minute to show you.
I'll show it in the later, so that we go with the hands-on training.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'll explain in the form of theoretically. So hands-on training I'll go in the after the thing, right? See, so after estimation, I use the regression, simple regression. Okay, simple regression means what? If you are using two variables, then we can call it as simple regression. If you are using more than two variables, then we can call it as multiple regression. Okay. So in regression also, we can see there are different types of regression. Okay. So functional form of regression, we can say that. So that I'll come to the later. So here I have estimated the regression. So here this is the beta 1 value and this is the beta 2 value. So this is a constant and this is beta 2 slope. We call it as slope. So slope means what? The change in the y, change in the x, change in the y due to change in the x. That will be explained by what? Your beta 2. That is called as slope. Okay. Here you got a value of what? 0.712, 7194. So
one is stable, another is unstable.
No. This is negative. Negative value. It is a constant. You don't need to worry about this one. Now we are going to constant on the slope. Slope. Why we want to focus more on the slope? Because we want to see in economics. We want to see always from the positive manner. Our graph will be from the. It will moves from the right, from the left to right only. Okay. So we think everything is in the positive way. So that's why. So here the slope value is 0.719. So what it explains is that number one condition is, first condition we say that the value of beta 2 must lies between what? 0 and 1. This condition should be fulfilled. So as per the estimation, we have fulfilled that. So the beta 2 value is within the limit. It is between 0 to 1. We have fulfilled the first condition, mathematical condition. Okay. So then now let us assume that, as I said in the earlier, if the higher the MPC value, that means if the MPC value is near to 1, that means I can say that there is a higher MPC. Marginal propensity to consume. Okay. So do you think that 0.72 is near to 1 or near to 0?
Near to 1.
It is near to 1. So what we can interpret from this result is that, so if there is an increase in income, so consumption will also increase. Okay. So not as much as increase in the income. So that means if there is an increase in 1 rupee of $1 US of income, so what will happen? So there is an increase of 0.72 cents. In US we call it as cents, or if you can say in the form of Indian currency, if there is an increase in 1 rupee of income, so there is an increase of consumption of about 72 paisa. 72 paisa. Okay. What about 28 paisa? So the question will arise, the 28 paisa will be goes to savings. Okay. So this is the crux of Keynesian psychological law of consumption. So this is how we can prove the theory. This is how we can validate the theory in the form of empirical evidence, empirical data. So here it says that the MPC was about 0.72. It means that for sample period, as I said, it is from 1980s to 1991. So when real income increases by $1 US, see, this is an average. See, everything we have to say in the form of average. The reason is why? Why? Because we say that average. Why we used to say that? We used to say always average. Why can't we say that in the form of actuals? Why we can't say in the form of actuals? The reason is that when the Francis Galton, who invented the regression, Francis
Got it.
burden. Who invented the regression? You know how regression has evolved? Does anybody know that? Regression ek bantu, how it has started? Francis Galton says that, so regression he advocated based on the heights of the fathers and heights of the sons. Heights of the parents and heights of the sons of the children, we can say correctly. So high, according to him, so average height of the, if the parents are taller, there is a tends to have an average of tall children. Okay, so lower the average height of the children parents, so then the lower the or shorter the children they are going to have. So this is the concept based on the average. Average, he has invented the regression concept. Okay, so that's why we use always it's an average. See, for example, those who are sitting here 20 participants, your income may be different from one person to another person, and consumption pattern is also from one person to it may be different from one person to another person. But when you are saying concluding or generalizing the information, results, as I said, linear. Okay, linear. This functional form is in the form of linear. When I am going to generalize it for everyone, we used to always use the average concept. So that's why they have used an average real consumption expenditure increase of about 72 cents. Okay, so this is how you have to understand the result and after estimating the data. See, there are plenty of tools, but still, when you are after getting the result, how you can interpret the data? Say sometime what will happen? This result may become insignificant. Okay, you might be knowing significance and insignificant of results.
Yes, sir.
At what level it will be insignificant and it will be significant. There are confidence interval. What do we call it as significant level of significance? 1%, 5%, 10%. Right? When we are checking the results or rejecting the null hypothesis, we see in the three different forms. What do you mean by that 1%? What do you mean by that? 99? Error. Very good. So you are making a mistake of 1% is 1% error, but 99% you are right. Okay. So rule of thumb for getting to know the significance level of the coefficient is that 1.69. If the value of coefficients are above 1.69, then you can directly say that it is significant at 5% level of significance. Okay. So this is a rule of thumb we used to use that. So after estimating, if the data is estimated based on what significance level. If the t value is not significant, then you can't able to further make a forecasting. Okay. Sometimes what will happen? Your results may be your variables are not significant, but still you are going to make the forecasting. You should not do that. Unless and until your variable are not significant, you can't make the forecasting. So if the variables are significant, so you can go for forecasting or prediction. Okay, prediction means what? As I said, so 0.72 means what? MPC. As I said, MPC. MPC means what? You can able to estimate the multiplier effect. Multiplier. In economics, you might have been knowing Keynes has introduced multiplier effect. What is the formula for multiplier effect? Multiplier? Huh? Very good. K is equal to 1 divided by 1 minus MPC. Okay. So now we have our MPC. MPC value is how much? MPC value is how much? 0.72. So 1 divided by 1 minus 0.72, how much it will be? 3.57. If you calculate multiplier, so the multiplier value means 3.57. That means if you are going to invest 1 rupee in US, your income will be, your returns will be how much? 3.57 rupees. That's why there are plenty of foreign direct investments are entering to our Indian economy. That's a major reason. If they invest 1 rupee of investment, if they make a 1 rupee of investment, they are going to earn 3.5 rupees of income returns. So that's how you can apply further investigation if you want to make out of the coefficient value. So here assume that income multiplier is M1 is equal to 1 minus MPC. If MPC is 0.72, your total multiplier effect will be 3.57. That means so you're going to have a huge income. So if you want to forecast the income, let's say assume that your income is 6,000 rupees. So your consumption is going to be 4,084. You can predict it. See, we're going to have see, because it's Bharat in 2047. There is a target for India to become developed country in 2047 or billion 5 trillion economy. So 5 trillion economy, how it happens? It happens because based on we're going to predict that. So if there is an income of increase in the GDP of 5 trillion, so then obviously there will be we're going to have the consumption expenditure higher. There is going to be a higher consumption expenditure because so obviously Keynes theory has been proved that so higher the income, higher will be the consumption. Okay, so this is a major thing that we are going to have forecasting. We're going to have forecasting about. So and another major observation you can make out. See in India, the digital transaction has made a world record. You know UPI transaction. You know UPI means what? Unified Payment Interface. Very good. Because of UPI in India, we could able to reduce the cost of printing notes. Number one. Number two is digital transactions are more in rural area as well as in urban area. So that means it reduces the digital differences between rural area and urban area because of the kind of the technology we brought in and the kind of internet subscription that we brought in. So that means what you can able to see that forecasting means what in the next 10 years almost all the transactions will happen in the form of digital. As a digital currency. Okay, so this is a major forecasting and prediction that we can make out, and using the model for control and policy purpose. What we can do that? So government can obviously increase the tax. Okay, in Karnataka, I tell you one thing. I think you maybe know revenue tax. In Kannada call it as Kandaya.
Yes, sir, revenue tax.
Revenue tax. We call it as the tax will be imposed on the property. So earlier it was only 1,000. Sorry, I think it may be around per year. It may be around 1,000 rupees something. But today it is 5,000. You can see the jump in the revenue tax. Okay, it increased from 1,000 to 5,000. And if you, I think there is a what you call agreement paper. That's some agreement paper, registration paper will come. Stamp paper.
Stamp paper.
Earlier it was 100 rupees. Now it is 500 rupees. So what is the percentage of increase in the particular period? Or what you call document, particular documents. That means people can able to offer it. You can another best example I can give. Pahani, RTC. You can call it as RTC. Earlier it was 10 rupees. Now it is 100 rupees. So see the dramatic change in the price, and the people still can afford it. So that means so government can impose a tax so that people definitely they can able to afford it. I can give a best example. See earlier the mobile subscription rate was below 100 rupees earlier, 3 to 4 years back. But now per month we have to spend how much for mobile subscription, both internet and calling for calling. Minimum we have to call on an average 300 rupees, right? You agree with me? So on an average per month, per year, we have to spend so 3,500, almost 4,000 rupees we have to spend. So where the Gurulakshmi is the Gurulakshmi sufficient for the women when you compare with the mobile subscription, because everybody is using mobile, right? Internet. So that means so you can able to make the judgment based on people can afford it or not. So that's a major thing. So next one is, so these are the methods that we use. So as I said, so there are 3 different types of data, and I'm not getting into these things. So types of time series data, daily we can see come across, biannually, quarterly, so hourly, lots of different values in different periods for one country and state. And so these are the time series. As far as the law is concerned, you can see number of cases registered in a high court per day. Number of cases were transferred to Supreme Court. So it shows the efficiency of High Court and the Supreme Court. You can able to estimate it. So that those kind of data you can use. As far as the commerce is concerned, you can use stock market, BSE, Sensex data, and National Nifty. So you can able to do different kind of data, hourly data basis. You can also estimate. So cross section means, as I said, it's a vector and rows columns. Okay. So panel data, it's a combination of time series data. So it's in a matrix form. So time series data we should mention in the YT. Cross section we mention in YI. So YT means time series data. YI means identity. Okay. So panel data means it's a combination of I and T. So So it is, so observation, that T means time period. So total number of observation will be mentioned in the form of, so time series data. N is, I is the number of observation for cross-sectional data. See, there are two types of data. I think you might be knowing quantitative data and qualitative data. In qualitative data, we can come across different data like gender, so education, religion. So those things can be studied. So what are the major things you need to look at the data? What type of data you can be using? One is you have to look at the raw data. Okay. So you have to look at what are the discrepancies are there. What are the missing values are? Is there any missing value in the data that you have to see? Is there any missing over estimation of data, over entry of data, or under what you call as, if you don't have any kind of data, if there is any means not availability of data, what you are going to do those things. So that you have to look at the raw data, and graphical analysis you have to do. Whenever you get the data, you have to come up with the raw graphical analysis. If you don't have graphical analysis, what is happening between two variables, so that gives you the graphical analysis. Summary
Sir, in
studies.
case of the NA not available data, then what we have to do, sir?
See, NA means, so for example, I can give you one best example for this. See, 1 rupee, 5 rupees were a major played a major role in money supply in the 90s. Okay, now it is not there.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so it has gone. If you want to estimate the money supply by including 5 rupees on 1 rupee, then you have to combine with the what? Other currency.
Other currencies.
Let's say, for example, earlier Andhra was Telangana was a part of Andhra Pradesh. Okay, so before partition, so we used to recognize Telangana as a Andhra Pradesh. If you are taking the data for 5 years, then you should need to add the Telangana data with the Andhra Pradesh one. Okay, you should not bifurcate because you don't have data for any years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, in those cases, if there is a data, you can't get the data.
Yes.
Before 5 years, there is no data for Telangana separately, right?
Yes, sir.
So it is a part of Andhra Pradesh.
Yes.
So for that case, you have to club the data. Okay, so those things you can
At
do.
that moment, suppose there is a 1991 to 2010. The 2009 data is not available. Then what we have to do, sir?
So then you have to take the, what you can take, you have to take the data which is available from the successive years. Successive years.
Successful, yes, sir.
Because if there is no data at all, so then there will be missing value.
Yes, sir.
If there is a missing value, it's very difficult to estimate a regression.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. So anything else? So then summary statistics. As I said, you need to concentrate on summary statistics. And the next one is component of time series, what is happening, and indices and base dates. Okay. So while you are having constructing index, anybody is constructing index in this room related to your research? You are not considering. Okay. So when while you are constructing an index, okay.
Sir will be
So
guiding, sir.
huh?
This is the last 1 week back. Sir will be going to guiding.
Right. Okay. So while you are constructing the index, the scale of measurement will be different from one variable to the other variable. Okay. In that cases, you have to use a data analysis very carefully. So while you are having the data, so that means you have to go for LN. We usually call it as natural log. What do you call it as? Natural log. LN. You don't know LN? Why do we use natural log? Log value you might be knowing, right?
Yes, sir.
Why do we use log value?
Normalization.
For example, in research I am asking. Very good. So in order to reduce the number size between two variables, okay, basically we use that natural log. While you are using natural log as a regression, the interpretation will be different from while you are using actual data. So I will explain how things will be different. So with the data, we'll learn. And in the last one is data transformation. That is the most important thing. See, so as your friend said that if the data is not available, what we have to do? Really, you should not get panic. Okay, you have to think in a different way. That's a major thing. So you have to transform the data. Okay, if I can say, for example, if the data is in terms of time, if the data is in terms of tons, food grain production is in tons. Okay, so GDP in terms of what? Rupees.
Rupees.
Okay, so how we can make it two tables in the same form? How we can transform it? How could you able to transform it?
Tons will be converted to rupees.
No, log values.
Log values.
One is log value, another way? Normalization, okay, another way, how do you transfer it? Another way of data transformation is that we can use per capita. Okay, let's say for example, if the value is in income, let's say GDP. GDP is in total. I think you might be knowing the definition of GDP. We convert it to per capita GDP. Per capita GDP means what? Total national income divided by total population. The same way, so we convert the total food production in terms of ton, whatever will be there, you can convert into per capita availability of food. Total food production divided by total number of population. So that per capita availability you can able to measure. So these are the way of transforming the data from one place to the one variable to the other variable. So, but in case of primary data, I can't able to transform it. Okay, be careful. You can't make male to into female. Don't make it. You can should not make the one married to unmarried or married to. So in primary data, you have to code the data very carefully. If you are going to make any kind of mismatch, so then the whole analysis will become vague. Okay, so be careful about the data transformation. So before handling the data, so you need to get about the feeling. What is a now? That's why in the beginning I said what type of data you are using. If you are using primary data, you need to understand what is the nature of primary data. What are the variables will come? How you can define it. Okay, if you are asking close-ended question, then how you can measure it. If you are asking the question, you are framing the questionnaire based on the open-ended question, how you are going to make the scaling. So these are the things you must need to have a feel about your data. So look at the number in the form of spreadsheet and numbers. It should be very correct. See, that's the most important. See, I'll tell you one best example. If you are going to collect the primary data, let's say for example 300 sample. If you have collected the data 300 sample, how you can begin from the data entry? Can anybody tell me that? How you are going to enter the data? You have collected the 300 sample from the study area. Okay, how you are going to start entering the data? Anybody entered the data? Anybody collected the data? Anyone? Coding, how do you make the code? No, you have 300 sample, right? You have 300 sample, you have collected the data. How you are going to begin with the entering which sample you are going to start? Which sample you are going to, which respondent sample you are going to begin with that?
So first we will suppose 300 questionnaire will be there. We will make it as a number. After that we will go for the
Very good. First you have to make, before collection of data in your questionnaire, you have to make the numbering from 1 to 300. If there are 300 samples you are going to get the data, you have to make the questionnaire from 1 to 300. This is the most important thing. Because why I am telling, because if you are not making the numbering as you said, then what will happen, you might have entered the data. Sometime you may lost your questionnaire, or you might have misplaced your questionnaires. So what will happen? If you want to recheck the data, you can't able to find out the which questionnaire data you have entered. So that's why. So this is the most important thing you need to go through while you are entering the data. The another one is, as I said, your data must not have outliers, extreme value. You should not have extreme values and discontinuous data. See, when you go to the field, somebody may respond to your questions. Somebody may not able to respond to your question. At that time, what you are going to do? Say you are going to ask me a question. I am a layman. I am not able to answer it. but I reluctant to answer it. A particular question. What, being a researcher, what you are going to do that? That's question mark. That is, let us assume that that's open-ended question. Yes or no question.
Once you revisit and collect the information.
No, he is not ready to answer it.
Based on the
Based on overall observation.
No, you can't omit it. It's,
So what type of questions will be blanket? Based on that we will think over it.
let us assume that major question he could not able to answer it. He is reluctant to answer it.
We remove it, sir. That's it. No, it's highly impossible. The major questions should be answered. Otherwise, how do you want to predict, sir?
You have to answer it anonymously. You got my point? Anonymously means, as he said, you have to, based on the observation, you have to
Observation.
make the answers. Okay. Sometimes people may not be able to answer it. You see, if you go to the village, you can ask, if you ask anyone in the village household, what is your income? Nobody will ready to
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
tell you. How many children you are having? How many TVs you are, fridge you are having? How many boats you are having? Nobody will tell you.
Yes, sir.
So people are very clever. Okay. Especially, I guess, from those, are you a lawyer?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sorry to say that. Most of the lawyers and doctors are very intelligent in India because nowhere they explain, they'll give the data about their income. Nowhere they use, the least number of users like PAN card, they are the one as per the data. Okay, the reason why I am telling, because people, they don't want to reveal the data.
Yes, sir.
So at that time, you have to,
Because lawyer takes fees.
no, see, fee, that is also income, right?
No. They take fees in tax. That's why they don't want to.
Yeah, that may be true. Anyways, so see, those kind of question may arise. So at that time, you have to ask the question in a different way and correct the data. Okay. So these are the unstructural break. As you said, there must be some structural break. See, in Indian GDP, it came down negative during Corona. Okay. While you are comparing the GDP over the period of time, so it's a structural break.
Yes, sir.
2020, because we had a lockdown and our growth rate of GDP was negative. It's a V-shaped curve, right?
Yes, sir.
So that structural break, how you are going to shocks, because we usually call it as shocks. So the shocks should be taken care of it. Okay, if you want to consider the consumption pattern of consumers before Corona and after Corona, there is a lot of changes.
Yes, sir.
So the structural break you need to able to identify it. So those things will be major thing. And okay, I'll stop it now. We'll continue in the next session. Okay.
So this PPT is available, sir?
We'll have hands-on training. So now I'm not going to explain much.
Actually, we don't have that data.
Okay, I'll give it to
How to
you.
download?
Can you download it? Can you give me your pen drive,
Yes, sir.
so that I can? Sorry? No, it's not available. It's a proprietary software. ಒಬ್ರು ಕೊಡಿ ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್. It's not licensed off the record, you can say that. So it's pirated, you can use it.
ಅದನ್ನಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಪಿ
ಡೇಟಾ ಮತ್ತು ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ಡೇಟಾ ಫೈಲ್ಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ, ಅದನ್ನು ಸಹ ಇಟ್ಕೊಡಿ. ವಿಲ್ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ಸ್ ಆನ್ ಟ್ರೈನಿಂಗ್.
So that's in the group itself. WhatsApp group is there, sir.
ಏನಿದೆ? Okay, you will paste it here?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, I'll paste it here. Software, you can share it. I think it's very difficult to download from
Yes,
WhatsApp. Better you give me your USB drive. WhatsApp ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. Data I will share it. ನೋಡಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ
Yes.
ನೀವು ಶೇರ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್
Yes.
ಕಾಪಿ ಮಾಡಿ
ಕಾಪಿ ಮಾಡಿ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಎನಿ ಡೌಟ್ಸ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಲ್ಲ ಡೇಟಾ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಫೈಲ್ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ You're from? Uzgiri? You're doing PhD? Completed, huh? Yeah.
No, police station.
And then?
Professor Akash. Take running sir. Nine days. ನಮಗೆ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಪ್ರಾಜೆಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಇಷ್ಟೇ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಮಾರಾಟ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಫೈನ್ ಡೇ ಪ್ಲೀಸ್ ಗಿವ್ ಎಸ್ ಸಚ್ ಮೆಥಡಾಲಜಿ ಸರ್
ಮನಿ ಶೇಖರ್
ಹಾಂ ಬನ್ನಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟರ್ನಲ್ Yeah,
115.
right. Which area?
Foreign directories. Put the copy ಮಾಡಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಫೈಲ್ ಟ್ರ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕಲ್ವಾ ಹೌದಾ ಓಕೆ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಇದೆ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ವಿಚ್ ಒನ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ ಪ್ರಧಾನ ಮಂತ್ರಿ ಆವಾಸ್ ಯೋಜನಾ
Impact of Skill India initiative on rural livelihood among social groups of Vijaypur district.
Impact of agriculture equipment subsidies on production, a case study of Nagarpur district in Karnataka. Participation of women advocates in this service study not Karnataka.
Forensics.
Sorry? Forensic science. So what exactly you are working on forensic science?
Mostly trying to work on DNA models.
Okay. Forensic science.
So women information.
No, my question is that when you do forensic science, after this is very interesting. When the police will do for forensic science, right? There is a team. Okay, so they'll collect all the kind of information, forensics documents and everything. They prepare a charge sheet and they'll submit to the court. But again, that in the liar, opposite liar, opponent liar, will definitely decree the kind of forensic science research they have done for a particular crime, isn't it? In that case, what the validation of the forensic science is?
Circumstantial evidence also, we don't rely solely on that evidence. We have eyewitnesses sometimes.
It comes under expert evidence.
Depends on the case to case.
Forensic evidence comes under expert evidence. It is only to aid in court.
There is an opinion of expert. You consider it as a primary evidence, not a secondary evidence.
But court will agree only eyewitness.
No,
The
no.
period of
There is the fact is
the
there.
police work with scientific experts. after that we will charge it. Not all cases, in some cases, maybe in some rare cases, some hobbies. Not in every case.
Let's say for example in Philippines it kills the other person. In that case they won't use. Murder cases.
Maybe regarding the case matter, sir. In Andhra Pradesh, we have sensational cases. Jagan Mohan Reddy's uncle. Actually, some people killed. Now there is a blood in some bathroom. People say it's a heart attack. Forensic experts also work on that case. Suppose you take, sir, you stab one person with some small knife and replace it with another knife. Now something is going on there. This is a landmark judgment also. If you replace it with another sword, then you will not convict. If without expert evidence, expert opinion, if they send to expert opinion, they will try to get their blood on that weapon. Without expert opinion, they will lose.
No, actually in Karnataka I think might be knowing some other people. They have a celebrity case was there.
Yes.
So there was also forensic science, the department they worked on, and everything gone well. Done. But at the end of the day,
They will come.
acquitted. Anyways,
Only substantive, only corroborative evidence, only supportive evidence. Or expert opinion.
shall we start?
No, sir, wait. 1 minute.
WhatsApp data
Okay, we can install. I'll explain about this one. Just you can look at the screen. Hello. You can just look at the screen now. Okay, so this is the interface of Stata software. So where you're having different windows. Okay, so different windows will be there. So this window is a command window. Okay, so and this one is a information window. And again, this is also a kind of command window that we can give. Inside any name and label will appear here. Okay, what are properties of variable and data name will appear here. Okay, one of the best uniqueness of this software is you can as per the information given here, the maximum number of variable is set to 5,000. How many variable you can use here in this software? You can use 5,000 variables. Okay, at a time. So I just explained about Keynesian psychological of consumption, only the 2 variables that we have used. So there is a possibility that you can use the maximum number of variables or the 5,000 variables that can be used. So basically it's a programming software, we call it as a programming software. So it is actually command based as well as interface with command also you can able to use it as a spaces any spaces as you using, you can use this one also as it is, but command based tools are very convenient and it's free from the what we called confusions. Okay, so that's why I would like to suggest you to use software Stata because it is having all kinds of techniques and it is you can use as a trial and error also. Okay, so if the data is not able to, if you are not able to get the data, in the result, in the command itself, you can able to transform that variable. As I said, you can data transformation. As I said, data transformation that can also done through command also. Okay, if you want to make the validation of data, summarization of the data, and graphical analysis of the data. You can do both of them so together. So as you see that there are a few menu bar will be there, file, and you can from file you can able to open, do files or export or import different files. Say Excel spreadsheet, you can able to download from it directly, and text delimited, and in a fixed format, and SAS format, XML format. So there are different format data that can be and unformatted data, text data. So if you can take the database called Annual Survey of Industries. If anybody is working on industries, I think Annual Survey of Industry data, it gives the unit level data. Unit level means NIC classification. We call it as NIC classification. NIC classification data that you will be able to get, but you have the identification of the data is very difficult. So it's a huge large set of data. So like in NSSO, National Sample Survey Organization, they every year they try to come up with the different rounds of NSSO sample data. So they will be having the household level data. Okay, so by taking all those data, and this classification of those data can be done through Stata. So those data can also be imported and exported to different format. So and you can also take the print of the same data. So you can make some kind of changes in the table, and so when it comes to the data, so here you can come up with the description of the data. What type of data it is. So what are the features will be there? How you can see the data, and you can have a summary statistics. Okay, and data editor will be there. Okay, and create and change the data. You can create new variables if you want. Okay, so through command. So and you can change the content of the variable if you want. Okay, so you can transform the variable through command. So and you can also drop the variable observation. You can drop the observation as well as you can drop the variable also. Okay, so these are the things can be done through Stata. And variable manager. So you can able to, if you want to change something in variable, that can also be done. So data utility, if you want to change the anything label of the data and renaming the variable and change the order of the variable, ordering and comparing two different variables, and optimizing variable storage. If you want, you can make it out. So these are the things will be, if there is a duplicated observation will be there, that can also be dropped directly. So you can also make the sort of regular data and combine data at two data sets. For example, if you want to combine two data sets together, that can be done directly from here. For example, if you are having the data of rural area and urban area, if you want to see the combination of rural and the urban area data together, that can also be merged together. So you can do it from pair-wise, so open database from every pair-wise combination of two data sets, and you can do meta language or matrices. I think it is not do it. You can some of them may not use those things, but when it comes to the metrics, so you can have eigenvalues where you can use in purely econometrics. In purely econometrics, it's called heteroscedasticity. When you are using heteroscedasticity or homoscedasticity, you prove the assumption of homoscedasticity. So there we use eigenvalues. So those things can be done from this data things. So if you want to handle the calculator, hand calculator, so all these things are also available from here. So graphic, when it comes to the graph, so there are, I think you might be knowing that there are three different types of graphs are will be there. One is line graph, and bar graph, and pie graph. Okay, can anybody tell me that when we use line graph and when we use bar graph and when we are going to use pie graph? Very good. So when it comes to the different types of graphs, so in case of line graph, if you want to see any kind of trend, okay, so you are going to use line graph. Let's say for example, if you want to see the trend of nominal GDP and real GDP. Okay, so if you want to see the inflation over the period of time, so how it has increased and decreased, so that can also be seen through line graph. And when it comes to the bar graph, as we said, if you want to compare between two different variables, so there you can, or particular one variable. Let's say for example, a rainfall in a year. Rainfall in a year. You can see from January to December, there is a variation in the rainfall. Okay, from January to up to March, April, the rainfall will be much lesser when it compares to from June, June to up to August or September, right? So those kind of things within the variable, if you want to compare, so you can able to do bar diagram. So you need to know when you have to use the diagram, graphical representation of particular data. So it is based on bar dot and scattered diagram. We used to say that the scatter diagram will be used to see the outliers. Okay, so when you that's another kind of diagram that we can see, that scatter diagram. The scatter diagram clearly says that which is the extreme value. You can able to identify clearly. So extreme value is there, so you can able to clearly find out. So histogram, it gives you how the normalization, the center midterm is how it is distributed. So you can able to see box plot, scatter plot, and distribution graph, and smoothing and density. This comes under the time series data. So and diagnostic test that you can use for different level, and time series graph related to time series data. So panel data, and there are different techniques. For techniques, you can able to draw the graphs. Okay, so even for quality control, you can able to draw the graph. Okay, so and if you want to have more graphs, so that can also be used. You can use. So these are the graphs, and when it comes to the statistics, the major part is statistics. So here, so you can see that when it compares to SPSS, okay, SPSS is majorly for if you are doing the qualitative data analysis. Let's say for example, chi-square test. If you want to do perform chi-square test, or if you want to do some the association between two variables. So if you want to compare between two different variables within the data, you can do cross tabulation or exploring. So through that you can you can do regression. I'm not saying that space will not be regression or correlation, but when it comes to the advanced kind of tools and technique, I guess Stata is a more oriented, because it is every year it is updated related to the new techniques and in econometrics. So here you can see that summary of table or different kind of data that we are. I'll tell you one thing. The Stata tools and techniques is based on three things. As I said, one is time series data analysis. I think in the last few classes might have been covered it. Time series data. The other one is panel data. Okay, and the third one is cross section data. So these based on three data, we are going to have different kind of econometric models. Okay, so for that, so you can have a different techniques, and so diagnostic techniques will be there. So before getting into Stata, I just wanted to explain that as I said, when you are going to make a theory, there must be some assumption. Okay, so there must be some kind of assumption. I will explain it in a gist manner. I will not get into much of the data. Okay. So there are 10 assumptions will be there. Classical, you call it as classical linear regression model. So number one is linearity in the model. As I said, the model that we are going to make linearity, because we are going to generalize the results. Number one. So x is a variable. As I said, x is vary in a fixed sample. Number two is, So there is the existence of homoscedasticity. Homoscedasticity means equal distribution of variance. So that means the variation across the error term will be the same across the variable. And number 2 is there is no autocorrelation among ui and uj. That means the observation 1 and observation 2 does not have any kind of correlation. That means previous year GDP does not have any kind of impact on the present year GDP. So that is called as there is no autocorrelation. That is another observation. So number of variables number of observation must be greater than number of variables. The data that we have that should have higher than the parameter that we are going to have. Okay. So the model should be specified correctly and the correct specification of the model. That means there is no specification bias. Now, if you are going to specify any kind of model, it should be correctly specified. As I said in Keynesian model, I have mentioned that. So the value of beta 2 lies between what? Lies between 0 and 1. So that specification should be correctly specified. Okay. So if you are not specifying properly, so then it leads to some variation in the data. Okay, variation in the results. So the another one is the mean value of error term is 0. As I said, the mean value of that means error term will be always equal to 0 because the error term, why it is called as 0, because if the error term we have having some value, that means it influences on what? Y variable. The reason why I will tell you, because see, let us assume that this is error term. Okay, so this is x. So in mathematics we say that if anything we add to plus, also it influences on y. So if this becomes 0, that means what? The error term does not influence us on y, but still it makes that significant. You got my point? So that's why, so the mean value of error term is always 0. The mean value of error term is always 0. And I'll tell you one best example for error term, another example. Anybody fly through aeroplane like helicopter, something like that? Anybody? Okay. We assume that pilot is mentally stable and he will take us from one destination to another destination without any disturbances. That means what we call it as the mental stability of the particular pilot or driver. We call it as anybody who is driving buses. Right. So we say that, so the mental stability of that person is stable. If it is not stable, what will happen? Accident. It leads to accident, right? So that's why. So that means here we say that the error term is 0. So that means mentally we are all stable. So like that we use that. So these are some of the assumptions. So based on the assumption, we are going to run the regression model. Okay, I'll tell you one thing. See, we expect, being a statistician or econometrician, we expect that there must be a linearity in parameters. Note down if you want. There must be a linearity in parameter. Means the coefficient must be in linearity. There should be a linearity in coefficients or parameter. Beta 1 and beta 0 and beta 1 should be in linearity. So if there is no linearity in variable means what? If y and xi is not a linear, then we can transform those variables. Okay, I'll tell you one best example. Okay, one best example I can give you. If let us assume that income, if you make an income square, okay, we can transform it. Okay, we can transform it through ratio form. Okay, if I make a x square, I can convert it into ratio scale. Through ratio form, I can reduce the value of x. Let us assume that if GDP is x square, let us assume that GDP square. What do I mean by that? GDP becomes what?
Square.
Overvaluated. Right? So if it is non-linear, if I am going to convert those things through weights or through ratio form, I can transform that variable. Okay. Even y also I can transform it. Let us assume that, so if beta 1 is square, let us assume that beta 1 is having some square. So if I want to make, that means 0.72 square. That means what? You have to multiply 0.72 into 0.72. What is the value that you will get? Can you estimate? Can anybody estimate that?
0.72.
0.72 multiply
0.72.
0.72. What is the value you will get? What is the value you will get? 0.72 into 0.72. 0.518. 5184. But what value we have got here? Which is the higher one? This is the higher one, right?
0.71.
This is the 0.71. So if we make a beta 2 square, that means we are underestimating the coefficients. So that means we always say that parameter should be in linear. It should not be in non-linear. Okay. So these are some of the basic things you need to understand. So let us move on to the data. Okay. Now let us begin with the data. Okay. Download aita. Okay. So just you can go to open file. You observe file is there, folder is there. Just open the file. Open the folder.
Open the file, sir. Open.
ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ another way I tell you. Open the file, data file, go to data file. Data download ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ? Stata file download ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ?
Yes, sir.
Okay. ಅದನ್ನ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿ Stata file ಹೋಗಿ. Stata. I'll repeat once again. Go to the open folder. So then go to the data files. Data files ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. Then 1.1 file name 1.1 underscore computer sample ಅಂತಿದೆ. Click on it. Okay. Click on it and open the file. So open ಆಯ್ತಾ? ನೀವು ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ, ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಬಂದಿರೋ ಡೇಟಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಬಂದಿದೆಯಾ? Could you able to visible it?
sir.
ನೋಡಿ y is equal to 72.3 ಇಂದ ಹಿಡಿದು 126 ವರೆಗೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೀರೀಸು x is equal to 100 ಇಂದ 170 ವರೆಗೂ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. I'll repeat once again. Open the file, go to the data file and Stata folder, go to the Stata folder and click on Stata folder. If you click on Stata folder, 1.1 underscore computer example. ನೀವು ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಡೇಟಾ ಫೈಲು? ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನೋಡಿ, ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ? ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಇವಾಗ ಹೋಗಿ ಆ ಫೋಲ್ಡರ್ಸ್ನ ಒಂದು ಕಡೆ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ ಅಂತ. ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ಗೆ ಹೋಗಿ. ನೀವೆಲ್ಲಿ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿ, ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ಪಿಂದ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ಸ್ ಫೋಟೋಗಳು ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋದರೆ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ, ಈಗ ಇಲ್ಲಿರೋದು ನಾನು ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ ನಿಮಗೆ, ಅಥವಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರಲ್ಲಿ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ಸ್ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ. ಸೊ ಓಪನ್ ದ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಫೈಲ್, ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ಸ್ ಫೋಲ್ಡರ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಈ ಕಡೆ ರೈಟ್ ಸೈಡಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ y x ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ y is equal to ಏನಂತ ಬಂದಿದೆ? ಇನ್ಕಮ್. x ಅಂತ ಏನಿದೆ? ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್. ಓಕೆ. ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್. ಓಪನ್ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ?
So I ಮಾತ್ರ ಬಂತು ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್.
ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಐ ಬಿಗಿನ್ ಒನ್ಸ್ ಅಗೇನ್. ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ ಫೋಲ್ಡರ್ 14 ಹೋಗಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ MP ಅನ್ನೋ ಐಕಾನ್ನ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಈ ಥರ ಇದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲಮ್ಮ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ ಫೋಲ್ಡರ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ 14, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ 14 ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಡೌನ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ MP ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣ್ತಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟಾ MP, ಅದನ್ನು ಡಬಲ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಡಬಲ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಇಂಟರ್ಫೇಸ್ ವಿಂಡೋ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಬಂದಿದೆಯಾ? ಇದೆ ವಿಂಡೋ ಬಂದಿದೆಯಾ? ವಿಂಡೋಸ್ ಬಂದಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ? ಓಕೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಓಪನ್ ಫೋಲ್ಡರ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಕಡೆ ಫೈಲ್ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಇದೆ ಐಕಾನು, ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಓಕೆ, ನನ್ನ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡೆಸ್ಕ್ಟಾಪಲ್ಲಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಫೈಲ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ನೀವು ಡೇಟಾ ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ಪಲ್ಲಿ ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ, ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಮತ್ತು ಸ್ಟಾಟಾ ಫೈಲ್ ಎರಡು ಕಳಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸ್ಟಾಟಾ ಫೈಲ್ನ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಇದು ಏನು ಬೈ ಡಿಫಾಲ್ಟ್ ಏನಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಟಾಟಾ ಫೈಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ DTA ಫೈಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ. ಓಕೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಆಪ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಇದನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾವ ಫೈಲ್ನ ತೊಗೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡಿ, ಸ್ಟಾಟಾ ಡೇಟಾ ಫೈಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅವಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಈ ಥರ ಫೈಲ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಡಿಸ್ಪ್ಲೇ ಆಗಿದೆಯಾ? ಸೊ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 1.1 ಅಂಡರ್ಸ್ಕೋರ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ನ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಸೊ ಡೇಟಾ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಟೋಮೆಟಿಕ್ ಆಗಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಡೇಟಾ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟೆಡ್ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಅದನ್ನ ವ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಐಕಾನಲ್ಲಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಮೆನು ಬಾರ್ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಐಕಾನಲ್ಲಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್ ಅಂತ ಇದೆ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೇಟಾ ವ್ಯೂ ಕಾಣಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ವಿಜುವಲೈಸ್ ದ ಡೇಟಾ ಥ್ರೂ ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ in this side, the right hand side, you can able to see the variable y and x. How many of you can able to extract the data? Can you please raise your hand? ಆಯ್ತಾ? ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಈ ಕಡೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ಹಿಯರ್ ಡೇಟಾ ವಿಜುವಲೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಲ್ಲ. ಡೇಟಾ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಹೋಗ್ತೀನಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್ ಇಂದ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಬರಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಸಿಂಪಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ವಿ ಮೂವ್ ಆನ್ ಟು ದ ಕಾಂಪ್ಲೆಕ್ಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಎರಡು ಡೇಟಾ ಇದೆ, ಒಂದು ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಮತ್ತು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್, ಇದು ನೋಡಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಬಾರ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೋದು. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಕಾಣ್ತಿದೆ ಬಿಲೋ ದಿಸ್ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ವಿಂಡೋ ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ವಿಂಡೋ ಅಂತ ನೀವು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಏನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದು, ಅಂದರೆ ಏನು ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಶೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಐ ಯೂಸ್ ದ ಕಮಾಂಡ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇದು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ವಿಂಡೋ ಇದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಜಸ್ಟ್ SUM ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಿ, ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ. SUM ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಾ? ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ SUM ಅಂತ ಸಮ್
ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಿಗ್ ಲೆಟರ್ ಸರ್.
ಎನಿಥಿಂಗ್, ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್. ಅನ್ರೆಕಗ್ನೈಸ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಬಂದಿದೆ.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಎಂಟರ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಸರ್.
No.
ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಅಂತ
ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಅನ್ರೆಕಗ್ನೈಸ್ಡ್. ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಕ್ಯಾಪಿಟಲ್ y and x. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂತು. ಓಕೆ, ಸಮ್ SUM ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಲೆಟರ್ ಕೊಡಿ.
ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಸರ್ ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ಲೆಟ್ ಸರ್.
ಅಲ್ಲಲ್ಲ, ಸಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಿ. ಓಕೆ, ನಾನು ಆಗಲಿಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಆಲ್ವೇಸ್ ಟ್ರಯಲ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎರರ್ ಮೆಥಡ್. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ನೋಡಿ, ವಿತಿನ್ ಎ ಸೆಕೆಂಡಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಯಾವ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀನಿ, y ಮತ್ತು x. ಸೊ ನಿಮಗೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಏನು ಬಂದಿದೆ, ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, how many observations you are having? 20. So the mean value of consumption ಎಷ್ಟು, 150. Okay, mean value of consumption, average consumption. Okay, so 115 rupees or dollars, you can say that. So the income is 164. So this is a mean income and consumption expenditure.
Consumption is
164.
ಸರ್ ವ್ಯೂಸ್ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಎನ್ಲಾರ್ಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ದೊಡ್ಡದಾಗಿ ಕಾಣಬೇಕು.
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಇಫ್ ಯು ವಾಂಟ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕಾಪಿ ಅಂಡ್ ಪೇಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ವರ್ಡ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ದ ಲಾರ್ಜರ್ ಸ್ಕೇಲ್. ಓಕೆ, ಇದು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸರಿ, ನೀವು ಝೂಮ್ ಔಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಬಟ್ ಯು ವಿಲ್ ಗೆಟ್ ದ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಪ್ರಾಪರ್. ಅಂಡ್ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಈಸ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ವೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಕಂಪೇರ್ಸ್ ಟು ಇನ್ಕಮ್, ದ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ತುಂಬ ಏನಿದೆ, it is very low. Okay, so there is a more consistency in the consumption rather than the income. Okay, so income only there might be variation. So So from one person to another person there may be so variation, but still there is a variation. Okay. So through data I can able to explore it. You can see that. So the least income is
ಸರ್ ನಮ್ಗೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ಸಿಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ
ಅದು ಬಂದಿಲ್ವಾ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡ್ತೀನಿ ಟ್ಯಾಬುಲೇಟ್ ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಟ್ಯಾಬುಲೇಟ್ TABULATE ಟ್ಯಾಬುಲೇಟ್ type tabulate. I made some mistake in tabulate y and x. You have to give the variable name. Tabulate y and x. If you want to know the data feature of one single variable, you can give tabulate y single variable. If you want to see the data feature of both the variable, you can give tabulate y space x. You have to give the space x. Okay. So I have given only the y. So table y, tabulate y. This is a feature of what? Only one variable, consumption expenditure. Okay. Sorry, consumption income. Y is income now. So and the least income is 72.3 and so 163 is the highest. There is a huge variation. Okay. So you can see the frequency. So within the particular income, we can able to see the there is no any more than one people are there. More than one person is not there. So everybody is having individual income is different. Okay. So if you want to see the consumption pattern, so again you can type tabulate x. So this is the consumption, the feature of consumption variable. So here also there is no person is having more than one person is not having the same kind of consumption pattern. So everybody is having unique way of consuming the consumption pattern. So it starts from 100 to the highest, least is 100 and 240. Okay. So this is the basic information about the data.
ಸೊ ಅದು ಡೇಟಾ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಸರ್
You can go to the.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಇದಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ವೆನ್ ಲುಕಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ಡೇಟಾ
It's already saved. If you want to extract from Excel, I'll show you that one also. So since you asked me, see if you want to clear this variable and data, just give a command called clear. It automatically goes off. CLEAR. Okay. So there won't be any information. Data will not be there. If you want to check it, you can go to the data. There won't be any kind of data at all. Okay. But results will be there. The one unique feature is that of Stata is that result will be there, but data won't be there. If you give a clear command, so if you want to directly, as he was asking that how you can directly get the data from other file. Okay, so directly you can go to this one data file, data files. Go to the Excel file. Okay, I think you might be having Excel file also. Open that file. Open the Excel file. You have to download from WhatsApp group.
ಫಸ್ಟ್ one seed ಇದೆ
Yeah, 1.1, same title I have given. So copy this data set y and x, control C, copy it, copy madra.
ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ ಸರ್
You have to download ಮಾಡಿ. You need to download both Excel file as well as Stata file. So you have to download ಮಾಡೋದು ನಿಮಗೆ it will be very easy. ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೀಗೆ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಥ್ರೂ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಅಂತ
ಅದು ಈ ಡೇಟಾ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಸರ್
ಯಾವುದು
ಈ ಡೇಟಾ
ಇದನ್ನ
ಹಾಂ
ಅಂಟೆಲ್ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಓಪನ್ ಆಯ್ತಾ ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಫೈಲ್ ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಗ್ರೂಪಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ನೋಡಿ ಓಕೆ ಬರಲಿಲ್ವಾ ಈ ಕಡೆ ನೋಡಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಸಿ ದಟ್ ಈಗ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್
ಓಪನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ
ನೋ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಈ ಕಡೆ ನೋಡಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಕಾಪಿ ದಿಸ್ ಒನ್ Copy this one. Okay, directly ಏನು ಮಾಡಿ ಈ ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಡೇಟಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರೈಟ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಓಕೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೇಳುತ್ತೆ, ಒಂದು ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೇಳುತ್ತೆ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಇದು ತುಂಬ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಪೇಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಯು ದಟ್ ದ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ರೋ ಆನ್ ದ ಕ್ಲಿಪ್ ಬೋರ್ಡ್ ಕಂಟೈನ್ಸ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ದಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಬಿ ಯೂಸ್ಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಎ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಡ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ನೇಮ್ಸ್. ನಾನು ವ್ಯಾಲಿಡ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ನೇಮ್ಸ್ ಏನಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೆ, ವೈ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೊಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. ಅಥವಾ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ನೇಮ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ 1 ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ 2 ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಅದೇ ನೇಮ್ ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ. I'll tell you, I'll repeat once again. Here it is the software is asking whether you want to continue the original name of the variable or the computer can give its own name. So for that, so do you want to treat first row as a names? So the first row means this one, not this one. The first row means where the names will start. Okay, so variable name. Okay, so now you can see the first row becomes variable name. This is the first row. Okay, and this is second row. So here, from the data entry point start from here 72.3. So you have to select the variable name so that you can able to have the variable name also in your data and save it. Just click on the save. After pasting the data, save it. Okay, if you want to save, you can save the data. Since it is not in the Stata file, if you are copying from Excel to Stata, if there is no the data in the Stata form, you can directly save it. Just now I am going to give 1.2 computer name. I am giving the same name but with the slight changes. Computer example. Okay. So I have saved it in the Stata form, DTA file. DTA means Stata file form. So now again I am going to clear this file. Okay, clear this file and I will exit. Okay, now I am going to open from the data file directly. See sir, you can able to see it here. 1.2 computer example. So if you click on that, directly you can again open the data directly. It will be available in the form of Stata file. Okay, and it will show the path of where you have extracted the data. So ಯಾವ path ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೌನ್ಲೋಡ್ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ ಅಥವಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಿರಾ ಅಂತ ಸಹ it will show that. Okay, so I just clear this one. This is one way of extracting the data from one file to the another one. Okay, let's move on to the same table. Same table go on. That is 1.1 computer example data. So you have seen the table form of y and x. So now if you want to, the first and foremost is descriptive statistics nodidvi. We have seen the descriptive statistics. Okay, so through the sum we could able to visualize the data. So minimum income is 72, maximum income is 163, minimum consumption is 100, maximum consumption is 240. Okay, this is the descriptive statistic that we have got through the given data. So next and foremost thing is correlation. You have to see that is there a correlation. Before getting into the regression, one is descriptive statistics. The descriptive statistics used for to know the what is exactly the mean value and standard deviation, what is the maximum value and the minimum value. Okay, so now if you want to see the correlation, you have to give the command called CORR, and you have to select the variable, that is y space x space x, CORR y space x. Just enter it. CORR means correlation. We call it as correlation matrix. It gives you in the form of correlation matrix. Okay, so between what? Y and x. Say between y and y, what is the correlation value? 1. So 1 means what? Perfect correlation, right? Okay, so the value of correlation lies between 0 and 1. Okay, so since y and x correlation is
0.96.
0.96. So what the observation you can make out?
Near to the perfect.
Huh? They are highly correlated. They are highly correlated. This is a only simple linear regression function. That means we call it as bivariate regression model. You can easily say that bivariate regression model. So since there is a high correlation between y and x, we can move on to the next one. What? Regression. So there is a correlation, high correlation, and at the same time it is also positive, isn't it? So positive means what?
There is a high correlation.
No. Positive means what? Higher the income,
Higher
higher the
income.
consumption. Lower the income, lower the consumption. So there is a direct relationship between income and consumption. Okay. So now, so we could able to make out that there is a high correlation between x and y. So I will tell you one of the rule of thumb for justifying the correlation. Okay. Okay. If there is a correlation between dependent and independent variable, you can note down if you want. If you want to check the correlation between dependent variable and independent variables, the rule of thumb for correlation is if the correlation value is more than 0.55. If the correlation value is more than 0.50. I'll repeat once again. If there is a correlation between dependent variable and independent variables, then the rule of thumb to justify the correlation, value is 0. More, it should be 0. More than 0.50. 0.50. It should be more than 0.50. For example, I tell you one thing. The crime rates and the urbanization relationship, if it is below 0.50, then you can't go for regression. That means there is a low correlation. You got my point?
More than 0.50.
Yeah, if there is a between what? Between y and x.
X.
Okay. Then the question will arise. Then what decision you can make if there is a high correlation between explanatory variables? Let's say for example x1 and x2. What we have to do? We say that there should not be any correlation between independent variables, isn't it? Independent variables. So then what is the rule of thumb means? There should be a low correlation between x1 and x2. It should be below 0.50. That is the rule of thumb. Okay. So these are the things you need to keep it in your mind while you are running the regression. Okay. Let us assume that if your correlation value between x1 and x2 is 0.90, then what we have to do? The question will arise, what we have to do? We have to drop any one of those variables while running the regression. You got my point? You have to drop any one of the x1 or x2. Either you have to take x1 or you have to take x2 to run the regression. You should not together you should not run the regression. Okay. Either you have to drop x1 or you have to drop x2. So that will give you the clear cut results. Okay. Okay, let us move on to the next one. So after running the correlation, so then we have to move on to the regression. So regression command is just you have to give regress. REGRESS. And you must know that which one is a dependent variable and which one is a independent variable as per your theoretical background. Okay. Okay, here according to Keynes law, Keynesian theory, consumption is a dependent variable and income is a independent variable, right? As per the Keynesian law. So according to this, see, now x becomes dependent variable and y becomes independent variables. Yeah, as per the data I'm talking about. Okay, as per the data, x is consumption expenditure. Okay, y is income. You have to use the command regress space x space y. Okay, then enter. You will get the result. See, getting result is very easy, but understanding the things are very important, and justifying the things are very important. Okay, regress y, sorry, not y, x, and x is a dependent variable and y is a independent. See, when you are giving the first variable, that is always, it will be always a dependent variable according to the parametric test. Okay, so here you can see the different results. Okay, in the first one, you can see that model, that is source SS, sum of square, some value will get, and residuals will get, and degrees of freedom 1 and 18. Everyone got same result, right?
Yes, sir.
Has anyone got different from my result? No. If different result, please let me know so that I can see the data. Okay. See, our concentration must be on two things here. Okay. You can please look at the screen here. You can see that here we have mentioned x as a dependent variable, and the second column is the coefficients. Okay, here y is a independent variable, that is beta 2. So the value of beta 2 is how much? 1.552. And the standard value error is 0.7 and t value is 15.73. That means it is more than 1.69. Rule of thumb is, so at 1% level of significance, t value is correct. Alva. So then my question will arise here is that, okay, so the beta 2 value is not between 0 and 1, right? You got my point? See, obstacles, how the obstacles will come while you are doing the analysis and doing the estimation, there will be some obstacles. So my earlier my condition is that the beta value must be lies between 0 and 1. That means MPC, isn't it? So here it is having how much? No, 1.52, which is not satisfying our conditions. So then what we have to do next? The question will arise, right? Though it is significant, but the coefficient value is not within the limits of the theoretical explanation. Okay, so this is the one thing that we need to observe. Okay, second thing is constant is minus 11.92 is there. Okay, so since our beta 2 is not within the limit, we should not concentrate on the constant. So this is one thing. And next thing is, you can see the number of observation. How many number of observation we are having here? 20. Okay, so we are having only the 20 observations. So we are not having so more than 2 observations. Okay, so 20 observations we are having. So I'll tell you another thing. So while you are running the time series data, okay, we expect that the number of observations should be more than 30 observations. You can note down it. It should be more than 30. That means if it is more than 100, your time series results will get better. Okay, so then you won't get these kind of complications. So getting these kind of result is, one is less number of observations. Okay, number 2 is, though your F value indicates overall significance of the model. So according to F value, you can say that overall significance of the model is good, but still your coefficient is not giving on par with the results of your theoretical background. Okay, so the other one is R square. R square means, we say that coefficient of determination. In other words, we call it as goodness of fit. Goodness of fit, whether the model is good or not. So though it is giving the very good value, so coefficient, if you want me to explain about goodness of fit, I'll directly go to my class, so that I'll explain you the what exactly mean by Anybody knows R square? What do you mean by R square? R square is nothing but the variation in y is explained by variation in x. That is called as R square.
Variation of
The variation in y is explained by variation in x. Y means what here? Dependent variable. So the change in dependent variable is depend on the variation in x. So that will be determined by R square. So that is called as goodness of fit. So I'll tell you in a simple way with the diagrammatical representation. See, this is the R square. In a simple way. See, let us assume that there are two variables, y and x. In diagram A, so y and x is not at all influencing one or
each
the other one. It is like before marriage and after marriage. Before marriage, wife is independent variable and husband is independent variable. So they are not influencing on one on each other, right? That means y is not influencing on x, y at the same time y is also not influencing on. They are different, okay, independent variable. So that means there is no variation. Okay. When we come to the later one, see, this is the engagement stage. So x is influencing on y somehow, some part, isn't it? Means wife is influencing on husband. Okay, and no, bride is influencing on groom. Still not yet they married. Okay. So after diagram C, you can see the variation, explanation of variation. Okay. So in D, so there is a high influence variation. So variation in A, Y is influenced by variation in X. So on E, we can look at the F. So it's a post marriage. So where exactly the variation in Y is explained by the variation in X. Okay. So this is here the R square value is 0, perfectly 0. Here the R square value is near to, it will be perfectly 1. Okay. So if we say that, so R square value in A diagram is equal to 0. So R square is equal to 1 in diagram F. That means if whatever the changes is happening in income is exactly the explaining whatever changes happening in consumption. Okay. So that is called as R square. That is called as goodness of fit. We call it as, in another word, we call it as a measure of goodness of fit. The coefficient of determination. Okay. You know, Bolt, the person who got gold, Olympic gold, 4 to 3 times. Usain Bolt, right? So he was so fit, so that nobody can beat him, right? So that's how they explain that getting gold is explaining his physical fitness, right? So that means if you want your models to be more good for implication, that means your R square must have near to 1. I should not say near 1, it must be near to 1. So that means, so if it is 0.9 or it is more than 0.5, as I said, so your model is good for policy implication. So this is another kind of tool and technique. Let's say, for example, if you want to see the health of a person, you go with the BMI, right? Body mass index. You check with the body mass index, right? So height with the weight, isn't it? So if my weight is on par with my height, then my BMI index is good, isn't it? So like that. So you can see that this is a simple thing. There are some formula is there. Based on this formula, you will get the result. Okay. See, you need to understand the concepts only. The software will give you all kind of formula. It will be already executed in that. But the thing is, so you need to understand what is the role of that particular value. Okay. So there are two features of R square. Number one is it is a non-negativity. The R square value will be always positive. Number one. You need to remember in your while you are executing the model. Number two is the value of R square lies between 0 and 1. Okay. If it is 1 means, so perfect explanation in one variable with respect to the another one. Okay. So this is called as R square. So now let us move on to the results. So I think you might be knowing the R square, right? So the other variable is adjusted R square. The adjusted R square comes when you are using the multiple regression. Okay, when you are using the multiple regression, the role of adjusted R square will be more crucial. Okay, the reason why we have used adjusted R square means if you are using the keep on adding the independent variable, automatically the R square will improve, increases. To control that one, so we use degrees of freedom. Degrees of freedom means we are going to use k minus 1, number of parameter minus 1 and n minus k. Sorry, n minus k, number of observation minus number of parameter. We are going to divide, minus it and divide with the particular variable. So it is like it is like nominal GDP and real GDP. You know the difference between nominal GDP and real GDP. So like that. So adjusted R square will give the perfect value. That is, you can see that R square value is 0.93, but adjusted R square value is 0.92, which is very less because it will be adjusted with the degrees of freedom. So I'll get into the root MSc later. But here our observation is that though F value is significant and R square values are high, but our coefficients are insignificant. The reason is that the data number of observations are less. That is a major thing that you can come across. That means what we have to do? We have to add more data. One is add more data. Number two is you need to adopt the another way of executing the results is natural law. Take a natural law. What do you have to do? You have to take a natural law. How to take a natural law directly? Okay. So in Excel, what you have to do? You will go to the directly. See in natural law how you can take that we call it as ln y and ln x. So for doing in Excel, so we give ln command equals ln, open the bracket, select the number, okay, close the bracket. This is how you can take the natural log in Excel, enter it. Okay, this is a natural log for first observation. Just double click on the edge of the table or drag it, you will get the ln value for respective values.
So is equal to ln.
The command is equal to ln, open the bracket, select the data and close the bracket and enter it. So this is how we can do it in the Excel. Okay, and same thing for x variable. Ln equals ln, open the bracket, select the variable and close the bracket and enter it. You will get a natural value and drag it. Drag it here. Okay. Double click. Mouse is 1%. So this is a natural log for all the data set y and x. ಇದು Excel ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡೋದು for taking natural log. Okay. Natural log ಏನಕ್ಕೆ ತೊಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ since the results are not as per our expectation, so we are doing some kind of alternatives. Okay. Natural log ತೊಗೊಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀವಿ. ಇದು Excel ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. Have you done it in Excel? Okay, let's move on to the Excel. Stata ದಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಗೆ ಮಾಡೋದು? You can do it directly. Okay. Excel sheet. Excel ಏನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು? Equals ln, type ln, open the bracket, select the data, original data, actual data. ಈ A2 ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು? 72.3. Select the data, close the bracket and enter ಮಾಡಿ. ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ನ ಡ್ರ್ಯಾಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ಯಾವ್ದು ಡೇಟಾ ಎಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿವರೆಗೂ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಡೇಟಾ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಅಷ್ಟೇ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ln x ಅಂತ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. ನಾವು ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ತೊಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ? ln x ತೊಗೊಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. ಸೊ ln is equal to open the bracket 100 and close the bracket. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಡ್ರ್ಯಾಗ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರತಿ ಇದಕ್ಕೂ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ.
Don't use them, sir, after point.
ತಗೊಳ್ಬೋದು. You can take it. ಅನಂತರ syntax. I use the syntax here. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ you have to create a variable simply. ನೋಡಿ gn ಅಂತ ಹಾಕೊಳ್ಳಿ. generate. gn means generate. gn means generate. I have syntax here. Generate lny. You are generating a new variable called lny. lny is equal to which variable? ಯಾವ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ ಅನ್ನೋದನ್ನ ನೋಡಿ. ಸೊ ಅದನ್ನ ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟ್ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಡಿ. ln open the bracket y close the bracket. gen means generate lny. ಇದು ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ನೇಮ್ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದೀವಿ ನಾವು. generate lny ಅಂತ ಮಾಡಿ equals ln open the bracket y. open the bracket ಆಯ್ತಾ?
Yes.
ಎಂಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ಇದು ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಇದು ಈ ತರ ಬಂದಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ? ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಗೋ ಟು ದ ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಗೊತ್ತಾಯ್ತಾ? ಗೋ ಟು ದ ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್, click here, your data will be here. What is the difference between Excel and Stata here now? No need to drag. Okay, no need to give a command for each observation. So directly the data will be taken care of here. Okay. ಬಂದಿದ್ಯಾ?
Yes, sir.
ನೋಡಿ ಇದೇ ಸೇಮ್ ln ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಡೂ ಇಟ್ ಫಾರ್ x now. x ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಮಾಡಾಗಿ ಸೇಮ್ gn means generate space ln x is creating new variable command equals space equals ln open the bracket and x close the bracket and close the bracket. Enter ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಾ?
Yes.
ಹಾ, ಈಗ ಯಾವ್ದು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು? ಡೇಟಾ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಬಂದಿದೆಯೋ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ. ಎಕ್ಸಾಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಡೇಟಾ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಅಷ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಡೇಟಾ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, ನಾನು ಒಂದು ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಒಂದ್ಸಲ ಬಿಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಟ್ರ್ಯಾಕ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿಲ್ಲ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಆಗಲ್ಲ, ಇಟ್ ವಿಲ್ ಟೇಕ್ ದ ಡೇಟಾ ಆಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಡೇಟಾ ಆಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ ತಗೊಳುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಇಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಏಬಲ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಆಲ್ ದ ಡೇಟಾ ಆಸ್ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಾ? ಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಇಂಡಿಪೆಂಡೆಂಟ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ಗೂ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಾ? ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆಯಾ? ಆಗಿಲ್ವಾ? ವಾಟ್ ಹ್ಯಾಪನ್? ಸಿ ಡೇಟಾ ನೋಡಿ, ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ನೋಡಿ, ಯು ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಗಿವ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ಲಿ jn ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಬರಲ್ಲ. gn ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ lny is equal to ln open the bracket y close the bracket. ಏನಂತ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ?
why not command ಬರ್ತಾ ಇದೆ? why not command
ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
No, you have to open the bracket. Bracket ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ ನೀವು. You can see here. ನೀವೇನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ln y ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ, is equal to ln ಮಾತ್ರ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದೀರಾ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ, ಓಪನ್ ದ ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ. ಓಪನ್ ದ ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ. ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ನೋಡಿ,
Open bracket, close bracket.
ಓಪನ್ ದ ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟ್ and y and close the bracket.
Command ಹಂಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕಾ ಸರ್?
ಹಾಗೆ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು. It ಶುಡ್ ಬಿ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಅವ್ರು ತಪ್ಪೇನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ, ಜನ್ ln y is equal to ln ಅಂತ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವರು ಓಪನ್ ದ ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ ದ ಬ್ರಾಕೆಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಇನ್ y ಕೊಟ್ಟಿಲ್ಲ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಂದಿಲ್ಲ.
ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಡಾಟಾ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ, ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ರೀತಿ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ.
ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ವಾ, ಮುಂಚೆ ಇಲ್ವಾ ನೀವು?
ಇಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಸರ್.
ಅದು ಕಾಪಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಅಥವಾ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಸೆಟ್. ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್ ಹೋಗಿ, ಡು ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ದ ಡೇಟಾ ನೋಡಿ. ಆ ಡೇಟಾ ಎಡಿಟರ್ ಇದೇ ಡೇಟಾ.
ಇದು ಐ ಏನು ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಐ ಏನು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀರಾ?
ತಪ್ಪು ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸಿಂಟೆಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಇದನ್ನ. ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ಬೇಸಿಕಲಿ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಸಿಂಟೆಕ್ಸ್, ಇದು ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿರ್ಬೇಕು ಕಮಾಂಡು. ಸೊ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ನಾಟ್ ಮೇಕ್ ಎನಿ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಮಿಸ್ಟೇಕ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಅವಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ, ನಿಮಗೆ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ನೀವು ಎಲ್ ಬದಲಿಗೆ ಐ ಎನ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ, ಈಗ ಅವರ ಐ ಎನ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಥರ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಈಗ ನಾವು ಲೇಟೆಸ್ಟ್ ರನ್ ದ ರಿಗ್ರೆಷನ್. ಓಕೆ, ರಿಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಯಾವ ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ರೈಟ್ ಸೈಡ್ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಇಲ್ಲೂ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಯಾವುದು, ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್. ಡಬಲ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ರೈಟ್ ಸೈಡಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ. ಅಥವಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ, ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಇಟ್. ಏನು, ln x ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ln y. ln x
ರಿಗ್ರೆಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ.
ರಿಗ್ರೆಸ್ ln x ಸ್ಪೇಸ್ ln y. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಈಗ ನೋಡಿ ಕಂಪ್ಯಾರಿಸನ್ ಮಾಡಿ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಕೋಎಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ನೌ ಇಟ್ ಈಸ್ 1.0 ಇದೆ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟಿತ್ತು, 1.5 ಇತ್ತು. ಅಂದರೆ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಟು 1, isn't it? ಹೌದಲ್ವ?
Yes sir.
ಸೊ ದಟ್ ಮೀನ್ಸ್, ಸೊ ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಪರ್ಫೆಕ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನಿಂಗ್. ಅಂದರೆ ಸೊ ಹೌ ದ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ಸ್ ಹೇಗೆ ಚೇಂಜಸ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದಕ್ಕೊಂದು ಬೆಸ್ಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್. ಓಕೆ, ಇದನ್ನು ನೀವು ಹೇಗೆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ? ಇದು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲಿ ವೆನ್ ಯು ಆರ್ ಡೂಯಿಂಗ್ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಲಾಗ್ ಆಫ್ ರಿಗ್ರೆಷನ್, ಸೊ ದ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲನೇಷನ್ ಆರ್ ಇಂಟರ್ಪ್ರಿಟೇಷನ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ಇದನ್ನು ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೊಂದು ಉದಾಹರಣೆಗೆ ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೇನ್ಷನ್ ಸೈಕಾಲಜಿಕಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಅದ ಡೇಟಾ ತೊಗೊಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಐ ಶೋ ಇಟ್. ಸೊ ಇದು ನಿಮಗೆ ಇದೇ ಡೇಟಾ ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ತೋರಿಸಿದಾರ ಆಗಲೇ 0.72. ನಾನು ಈ ಡೇಟಾ ತೊಗೊಂಡು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಎಷ್ಟು ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಇದೆ. ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಇದು ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಐ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಇಟ್ ನಾವು. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಡೇಟಾ ಹಾಗೆ ಇದು ನಾನು ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮಾಡಿಸಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ವಿತ್ ಇಯರ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಸೇವ್ ಇಟ್. See, this is the data result we got earlier. ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದಲ್ಲ 0.72 ಬೀಟಾ 2 ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಸಿಕ್ತು ಅಲ್ವಾ? ಸೊ ಟಿ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, 33 ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಸಿಗ್ನಿಫಿಕೆಂಟ್ ಆಟ್ 1%, ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಆರ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ, 0.99 ಇದೆ. ಎಫ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಏನಿದೆ, ಓವರ್ ಆಲ್ ಸಿಗ್ನಿಫಿಕೆಂಟ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಅಂದರೆ ಸೊ ಓವರ್ ಆಲ್ ಇಸ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ. ಇದು ನಾವು ಆ್ಯಕ್ಚುಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ. ಈಗ ನಾನು ಇದನ್ನೇನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ, ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಕನ್ವರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ.
ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ಸ್ 12 ಇದೆ ಸರ್.
12 ಇದೆ. 12 ಇದೆ. 12 ಇದ್ರೂ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾಕಿದೆ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ ಕೇಳಿ. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ. ಐ ಕಮ್ ಟು ದಟ್. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಟೇಕ್ ರಿಗ್ರೆಸ್ y and x. Sorry, generate ln y is equal to ln y and x. Okay.
generate ln x is equal to ln x. Now let us run the regression now. You can see the difference. Our is 0.71 into 0.1.08. We have the better results in this
This one's a regression.
This one is better one. ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ, ಇದು ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಗಿದೆ. ನಾನು ಈ ಹಳೆದು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಇವೆರಡು ಕಂಪೇರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ವಿಚ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಬೆಟರ್ ಒನ್? ದಿಸ್ ಒನ್. ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನು ಕಾರಣ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳೋದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಅ ವೆರಿ ಗುಡ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್. ಈಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇದು ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ನೋಡಿ, ಗೈಡ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಯಾವುದು ಸಮ್ ಕಂಡಿದೆ, ಸಮ್ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ?
3.60, 3.4.
314, 435 ಇದೆ. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ಏನಾಯ್ತು? ಮತ್ತಷ್ಟು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಆಯಿತು. ಅದರಿಂದ ಏನಾಯ್ತು? ಕನ್ಸಿಸ್ಟೆನ್ಸಿ ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 314, 435 ಇದೆ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್. ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಅಗೇನ್ ನೋಡಿ, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ?
314 ಇದೆ.
ವೈ ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಇದೆ, ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಏನಾಗಿದೆ?
ಜಾಸ್ತಿ
ಇದೆ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನಾವು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ? ಯು ಟೇಕನ್ ದ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ 1980 ಇಂದ 1991 ಸ್ಪೆಸಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಸ್ಯಾಂಪಲ್ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್. ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಡೇಟಾ ಟೈಮ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಯಾವ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡಿದೆ ನೋಡಿ, ಡೇಟಾ ಸೋರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ, ಡೇಟಾ ಪೀರಿಯಡ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕ್ತಾರೆ ಥೀಸಿಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ. ಯಾಕೆ ಅವೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬಾ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ನಾನು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಹೇಳಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರಲ್ ಶಾಕ್ಸ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಚರ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಿ ನೀವು, ಕೆಲವೊಂದು ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಔಟ್ಲೇಯರ್ಸ್ ಸೊ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದರೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ರೀಸನ್ ಇಂದ ಬರ್ತಾ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಇದು ನಾವು ಕ್ಲಾಸಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಿಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರೋದು ಡೇಟಾ. ಓಕೆ, ಸೊ ಬಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ತಗೊಂಡ್ರೆ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಏನಿದೆ 25 and 40 ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಂಡರ್ಡ್ ಡಿವಿಯೇಷನ್ ಬರ್ತಿದೆ. ಸ್ಟಿಲ್ ಪರವಾಗಿಲ್ಲ, ಕಡಿಮೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿರ್ಬೋದು. ಬಟ್ ಈ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್, ಈ ಥರ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಬರೋಕ್ಕೆ ಕಾರಣ ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ಏನಿರ್ತದೆ ಅಂತಂದರೆ, ದ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಜರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಏನಿರುತ್ತಲ್ಲ, ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಜರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಅಂತಂದರೆ ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ನೋಡಿದ್ರೆ ಈ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಜರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಇದೆ ಯೂನಿಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮೆಜರ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಒಂದಕ್ಕೂ ಇನ್ನೊಂದಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಿದೆ ರೇಂಜು ತುಂಬ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ ಆಗಿದೆ. ವೇರಿಯೇಷನ್ ನೋಡಿ, ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಮ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ? 72 ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಮ್ಯಾಕ್ಸಿಮಮ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಎಷ್ಟಿದೆ? 163 ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ 100 ಇದ್ರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆಷ್ಟಿದೆ? 240 ಇದೆ. 240 ಇದೆ. ಸೊ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅರ್ಥ ಏನಾಯ್ತು? ತುಂಬಾ ಡಿಫ್ರೆನ್ಸ್ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಡೇಟಾ ತೋರಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು ನಿಮಗೆ. ಐ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಶೋ ದ ಅದರ್ ಡೇಟಾ. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಡೇಟಾ ಇದೆ, ಸೇಮ್. ನಾನು ಯಾಕೆ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ, ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ ಬೇಸಿಕ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ತುಂಬ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಬೇಕು. ಇಲ್ಲೇ ಒಂದು ಟೇಬಲ್ ಇದೆ, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಟೇಬಲ್, ಇಲ್ಲೊಂದು ಟೇಬಲ್ ಇದೆ. ಏನಿದೆ? ವೀಕ್ಲಿ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಇನ್ಕಮ್. ಯಾವುದು? ಎಷ್ಟು? 80, 100, 120, 140, 160, 280, 220, 240, 260 ಇದೆ. ಆಯ್ತಾ? ಈಗ 80 rupees ಇನ್ಕಮ್ ಇರೋರು ಎಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಮನೆ ಇದೆ, ಹೌಸ್ ಹೋಲ್ಡ್ ಇದೆ, ಕನ್ಸಂಪ್ಷನ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆಂಡಿಚರ್ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲೀಸ್ ಇದೆ? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the 80 rupees of income getting families, there are 5 families are there. Okay. So again, so there are 6 families who are getting how much income? 100 income. Okay. So there are 140 income, weekly income getting families. How many families are there? 7. So like that. So there within the limit of from 80 to 60, there are different families are there. Okay.
So whether it is really identified, sir?
Yeah, it is a sample. I'll come to that. So there are some different group of families are there within a particular income. But here, what happened here? So the reason why we are not getting the proper result in this case is that every consumption expenditure are
Different.
individual.
It's a different.
Individual. You got my point. Because of that, you are not able to get the results. So here, if let's say for example, a family who is having 100, say who is spending 100 rupees of consumption, so 100 rupees of consumption, so that means their income is 72.3.
3 income.
income. I think some data variation is there. So let us have the other way. So now we can have other way of. I think the data description are different here. 100 rupees income consumption expenditure iddu 72 paise income irodilla. You got my point? So while entering the data or explaining the data are different. So that's why I said trial and error are very important here. So now let us get into the other way. Okay, now I'll just take the data from family income. Okay, so I'll now run the data, regress. Interchangeably I'll run the data y and x. Okay, now you got the result. You know what? The same result. The data editor, I have interchanged the name.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can rename it. Okay, if you want, you can. If I am interchanging, I am making y as a x and x as a y. Because the reason is that, so you can see that no one is going to spend more than their income.
Yes, sir. 72 rupees is income, 100 rupees is a consumption.
That you have to make see that. If there is any discrepancy results in the discrepancy in the result, you have to see the data. You have to visualize the data, raw data. So now you got the data. See, now the coefficient is below 1, right? Within the limit 0 and 1. So the t value is 15.73. So pi value is within the limit 1%. That means 1 rupee. If there is increase in 1 rupee of income, they are going to consume how much?
61 paisa.
61 paisa. How much savings will be
29 paisa.
29
paisa.
Okay, so this is how you can do the interpretation. Got my point? Sometimes these kind of the error or the things will arise, obstacles will arise. So that we have to visualize the data first. Though they have given the data, I have taken some data from the internet sources, but though they have given the wrong data, but we have to see how the data has been captured. Okay, so if I am going to run this same kind of data in the form of natural log, if I am going to run the data in the natural log, ln y is equal to ln space y, and I am going to generate the natural log ln x is equal to z
Is equal
to ln open the bracket x.
close bracket.
Now I am going to run the regression. So in another way, x is first and the next one is y. I am interchanging the variable only.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you can see the result now. Say after interchanging the result, so my value become 1.07. So which is not on par with our result. This result gives you the best estimation. Okay, so this is how you can able to visualize the data and run the information. Okay, so this is the one part. So see, if you can see, if in this situation, if you are going to have the data, let us assume that you are having the group of 5 family which is comes under the 80 rupees of income. What you have to do? You can't. You need to have only two observation of data. One is consumption, the other one is income. So you're going to take the conditional mean of this group. What you have to do is that you have to take the conditional mean of average of this group who are having the 80 rupees of income. So the average consumption expenditure of this group is 65 out of 80 rupees. If their income is 80 rupees, the average spending of this group of family is 65. So like that, each family's income can be estimated. You can see that if the person's income is 80, the expenditure is 65. So if the person's income is 260 in a week, their expenditure income is 173. So that means your expenditure consumption may not be greater than your income. If this happens, then there is a recession. Then there is a crisis, which has happened in US in 2018. You might be knowing Lehman Brothers and Merrill Lynch.
Lehman Brothers and Merrill Lynch are the major banking system in US, federal system. They collapsed one day in 2018. We call it as one of the greatest recession in US.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so the reason is that they start giving loans greater than their income. Credit loan. We can call it as credit cards. The people are keep on spending more money than their income. One day they got what we call insolvency. So recession. So because of that, you might be knowing that. So more than $1 billion they lost in the stock market and in the federal system. So that's why. So whenever you're going to estimate the things, first thing is you need to visualize the data. So unless if you are not going to visualize the data and correct the data. See, I have corrected the data. Though I got a wrong result, I have to look into, again I went to the data and I have to visualize the data. What is my data? What it is saying? You have to use sometime the common sense, because so we have to understand the man cannot spend more than their income. So these kind of common sense we need to use while you are interpreting the or estimating the data. So if I am going to take the same data, let us take the same data. I have it in my folder. So I have the same data. See, I have the same data. This one, the same data, that weekly income and consumption expenditure data I am having. So I'll again run it in a stata command and paste it directly from the Excel sheet to here. So this is a weekly consumption and expenditure of the different household based on the mean value of consumption expenditure. Okay. So I am going to run the regression. Y and X. So what is the value I got? 0.6. 0.6 means what? It is within the limit of the data. Okay. So this is how we can able to create. So here some values we could not able to get because of the data type of data that I am having. Okay. I am having only 10 observations. So 10 observations will give you proper results. But your coefficient value is within the limit. So this is the first way of looking at the data point. So if you want to plot the diagram of particular variable, okay. So now let us go to the same result. Let us go to the same result. You can run the regression once again if you want. So the same result, this data, you copy the same data and paste it on the stata command. Edit stata software. Okay. So now you are having, you can plot the diagram. Okay. If you want to plot the diagram, okay, just give a command called plot between Y and X. Just give a command called plot.
Now to paste it, sir. Then take it as a copy.
Copy, right click, paste. It will ask you the, I'll show you once again. Go to data editor, right click, paste the variable. It will ask you do you want to treat the first row as a variable name? Say yes, variable names. Okay, variable names will come. Okay, close this window and give a command called plot. Plot Y and X. You will get the graph. You will get the graph. So you can see the trend. So is it a positive trend or negative trend? It's positive.
How you determine, sir?
Sorry?
How to determine the positive or negative?
No, you can see the trend. The direction of the
upward.
It's kind of like. Okay. Or if you want to plot the diagram directly, okay. So two-way graph. You select this one. Go to the graph. Go to the graph. Here, two-way graph is there. Select the two-way graph. Okay. So you can select the y-axis, which one you want, income or consumption expenditure. Okay, you can give a title, or x-axis if you want, you can give a title. Okay, and if you want your legend's name, you can give legend's name. So what is their role? Okay,
you can create. Go to the create. Select the plot. Create. Okay. Basic plot. If you want basic plot like scattered line. If you want line, select the line. Line. Okay. So you need to mention what is the y variable. Y variable means this one. And x1 is this one. So
Why is the
if you want select y as it is y, select it and select the y variable. Okay. Accept and say okay. It came like this. Reason why the data are more scattered.
most scattered?
It is scattered. It is not in on par with the variable because our data is it is not continuously increasing.
Increasing.
Got my point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So through that visualization of data is also important. Okay. For the same plot, I'll take another example. Okay. I'll take the result, the basic result I have shown you about presentation. I'll take this one. I'll take this one. Here and Y. In order to see the difference between this graph to the another one.
We take every time for the new
Yes.
Excel.
Yes. Whenever you want to insert the data, you have to take the new variable. Okay.
New Excel.
Just type two-way in a command line y and x and close the command. Look at that way. You can able to see the difference between older one and the newer one. Here you can see the clear-cut line graph. Because the reason is that you can see the variation from 1981 to 1991 is clearly
Gradually increasing.
increasing. Okay. So here also x variable value are gradually increasing. So that's why we make that assumption that x variable should be variate in a fixed values, in a particular fixed values. Okay. So then only you can able to see the trend. So you can able to see the trend. Okay. If you want to see the bar chart, if for example, if you want to see the bar graph y and x, you can just type it. You can see that. Or if you want to see only bar graph, only one variable, you can take only one variable also. You can take only one variable also. Just take plot y. Y and x. You can see the plot between two variables. So like that we can use a different kind of command for description of the data. If you want to see the histogram of particular variable, you can go to the histogram, take a y variable, you can see the density of what is the proper density of the function, you can see the histogram of,
So where you go histogram?
go to the graph, histogram, you can select either y or x. If you want to see the normality of the particular variable, now I have selected the x variable, so the diagram will automatically come to that. What you have to do next? You have to copy this one. If you want to copy this diagram to the editor, MS Word, copy this one. Don't save it as, copy this one. Go to the MS Word, because you have to adjust. MS Word file is there. Is not there?
Is there? Is there? This one.
Just you need to
Paste.
paste it. New clear cut. And how you can take out the results. That can also be done through. So if you want to copy these results, let's say for example, I want to copy this result. So directly you can copy it. Okay. Right click and paste it in. I'll just delete this one. It will come like this. So you have to use you can take out all the results as it is. Direct but actually when you are interpreting the result, so basically what you have to do, what are the variables you need to take? Number one is coefficient values and constant and t values. Paste ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಬಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಇದೆ ಫಾಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟೈಲ್ ಅದನ್ನ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲನೂ ತಗೊಳ್ಳೋ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೈನಿಂಗ್ ಹಿಯರ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಫ್ಯೂ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಲೈಕ್ coefficients ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು. ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ಟೇಕ್ coefficients and constant and t value. Okay, so then r square value ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, adjusted r square ಮತ್ತೆ number of observation and f value. ಇದು ನೀವು ಕೇಳಬಹುದಿತ್ತು, ಯಾರು ಕೇಳಿಲ್ಲ. ವಾಟ್ ಈಸ್ ದಿಸ್ SS EF MS ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ while calculating f value, f distribution, ANOVA ಕೇಳಿರಲ್ಲ.
Yes sir.
ANOVA means what?
Analysis of
Analysis of
variance.
What is the difference between ANOVA and t-test?
Between the group
Very good. Since we are using beta 2 is only one variable, we use t-test. You got my point? This t-test is only meant for what? X only, not for y. Sorry, it meant for beta 2 only, not for beta 1. Okay. So here the f value is nothing but ANOVA, analysis of variance. So it means it shows the overall significance of the model because it is considering both beta 1 and beta 2, more than 2 variables. Okay. So while you are calculating ANOVA, there are two types of ANOVA: one way ANOVA, two way ANOVA. Okay. While calculating ANOVA, you can first you want to calculate sum of square within the sample, sum of square between the samples. Okay. After calculation of sum of square within the sample, between the sample, you are going to calculate mean sum of square between the sample, mean sum of square within the sample. After calculation of mean sum of square within the sample and between the sample, we are going to f value will be calculated. The formula of f value is the mean value of sum of square between the sample and mean divided by mean value of within the sum of square of within the sample. So this is a formula they are already given. So in econometrics, this model is nothing but mean value of within the sample, between the sample. Residual means mean value of within the sample. This is between the sample and this value is within the
samples.
So if you are going to divide this value with 1, you will get this one. You got my point? If you are going to divide 11,710 divided by 1 means 11,710. Okay. So 851 divided by 80 means 47.3
within the samples.
This is the degrees of freedom. Mean sum of square is nothing but SSB divided by degrees of freedom. Okay. So SSW divided by degrees of freedom. So this means parameter k minus 1. K minus 1 means number of parameter. How many number of parameter we are having? Only 2. 2 minus 1? 1. Here it is 1. Okay. And second one, for this degrees of freedom is n minus k. N minus means number of observations minus k. K means here is what? 2. So 20 minus 2?
80.
You got my point? So 851 divided by 80 means 447. So this is mean sum of square. So if you are going to divide 11,710 divided by 47, you will get 247. Divide ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡೋಣ. You will get the 247. ನಾನು ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೀನಿ, you calculate sum ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. You just divide 11,710 divided by 47.32. 247 because ನಾನು ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಹೇಳಿಲ್ಲ ನಾನು. I didn't include point something. That means you will get 247. Okay. So ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಥಿಯರಿಟಿಕಲಿ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ರಿಸಲ್ಟ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಗೊತ್ತಾಗಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ. You got my point. Okay. So ಇದು 95% of confidence interval ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ the interval period where we are going to reject the null hypothesis. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ null hypothesis ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ? It gives you the one tail test, two tail test ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. So the significance range level. So ಯಾವ ಹಂತದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಇವೆರಡನ್ನ ಈ range of value will gives you the rejection level. ಯಾವುದು 95% confidence interval level. 95% ಅಂದ್ರೆ what? 5% level of significance. The probability ನಮಗೆ ಏನೈತೆ t test ಗೆ ಕೊಟ್ಟಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಇದು. So this result, if you understood properly, so interpretation comes very easy and it can able to easily justify it.
So ಇದರ SPSS ಮಾಡಕಲ್ಲ
SPSS ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ದಾಸಿ. Thanks for asking that question. The major advantage of Stata is that in SPSS if you want to do ANOVA you have to go separately for estimating. For estimating regression again you have to go and estimate separately. And for estimating R square also if it is there then you have to do separately. That means estimating one regression it takes longer time and you have to take the results at a different ways, different results. But here what happens, we are going to get the whatever required results it is available here. Okay, got my point?
ಒಂದು ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾತ್ರ ತಗೋಬೇಕು ಸರ್ ಕೋಎಫಿಷಿಯಂಟ್ ಅನ್ನು
ಇದು ಮಾತ್ರ ತಗೊಳ್ತೀನಿ ನಾವು because it's a bivariate. If you are going to include more than two variable it becomes multiple integration automatically. Okay, anything else? I think most of you are sir bandra agli. Any doubts? What is that? Any doubt today? ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡೋದೇ ಡೌಟ್ ಅಂದ್ಬಿಟ್ರಿ, ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ. SPSS ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರಿ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್. ಡಾಟಾ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಸ್ಟಾಟಾ ಸಾಫ್ಟ್ವೇರ್. ಡೇಟಾನ ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಇದೆ, SPSS ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ, SPSS ಏನಮ್ಮ ನೀವು ಇದು ಬೇರೆ ಡೇಟಾ ತೆಗಿದಿಲ್ಲ. I want to add this data. You want to add this data? See, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡ್ರಿ, ಇದಾವಲ್ರಿ ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಇದು ಹಾಕ್ಬೇಕಾಗಿದೆ. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನಮ್ದು ಡೇಟಾ ಐತಲ್ಲ, ಸೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಡೇಟಾ, ಆ ಡೇಟಾ ಹಾಕೋದು ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತೀರಿ. You want to add this data to Excel sheet? Directly take all this data directly, just copy it. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ನೀವು. Okay, ಹಳೆ ಡೇಟಾ ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. You have to give a comment part clear. Okay, go to the data editor. Okay, click a right click. It will ask you the variable name. Okay, directly can enter. ಇನ್ನೊಂದ್ಸಲ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕ್ರೆ instead of picture nag once more ಅಂದಾಗ ತಿರುಗಿ see you can see the how many variables are 6 variables are there. 65 observations pasted into data area. So it will give you the with all the information. I hope you enjoyed the class. It's I think 35 minutes late. Mine is going. On behalf of CMDR, on behalf of all participants and my own behalf, I would wholeheartedly thank Dr. Neelkant from coming over from here and doing a wonderful class, not only theory along with practical. break for food.
Yes, sir.
ಊಟ ಮಾಡ್ರಿ.
Yes, sir.
Any doubts?
ಸರ್ ಒಂದೇ ಒಂದು ಈಗ ನಾವು ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಇರೋದನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ಸೀಟ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಸಪೋಸ್ ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರು ಕಾಲಮ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟರ್ ಇದರಿಂದ ಸೀಟಿಂದ ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ
Drop the variable. Thank you. So ಅದು ಕೇಳಿದಕ್ಕೆ ನೀವೇನು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದರೆ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಗೋ ಟು ದ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಫೈಲ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಓಪನ್ ದ ಫೈಲ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಓಪನ್ ಯುವರ್ ಫೈಲ್ ಓಪನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಓಕೆ ಸೊ ನಾವು ಐ ಟೇಕ್ ಅ ಡೇಟಾ ಈಗ ಟೇಕ್ ಅ ಡೇಟಾ ಫ್ರಮ್ ನೇಮ್ ಇದೇ ಡೇಟಾ ತಗೊಳ್ತೀನಿ and take this data, just copy this one and go to the data editor tool. Next it. Okay, so according to me, if you want to drop the variable, so just give a command, same thing, drop on the kodi, give a command called drop. Okay, ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ಕಾಣ್ತಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣ್ತಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಡೇಟಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ ವಿಜುವಲೈಸೇಷನ್ ಡೇಟಾ ಇದೆ ಈಗ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ನೀವು ಲಿಟ್ರಸಿ ರೇಟ್ನ ಡ್ರಾಪ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಡಬಲ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಅಥವಾ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಲಿಟ್ರಸಿ ರೇಟ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಎಂಟರ್ ಇಟ್ ಸೊ ಡೇಟಾ ವಿಲ್ ಆಫ್ ಡಿಸಪಿಯರ್
ಯಾಕಂತ ತೆಗಿತೀರಿ ಬೇಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ ಲಿಟ್ರಸಿ ರಿಲೇಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಾ ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಕೊಡುವಾಗ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಟೇಸ್ಟ್
and you can also
ಐ ಟ್ರೈಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಡಿಲೀಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ ಸರ್ ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡೋದು
and you can
ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಕೊಡ್ಲೇಬೇಕು ಅಲ್ಲಿ
ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಇದು ಸಿಂಟೆಕ್ಸ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನಾವು ಓಕೆ ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಬೇಸ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ ನೀವು ಗ್ರಾಫಿಕಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಇಂತ ನೀವು ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೋಡಿ ಫ್ರೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸಿ ಟೇಬಲ್ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೋಡಿ ಸಮರಿ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್ ಸಮರಿ ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಟಿಕ್ಸ್ ನೋಡಬೇಕು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಾ ನೋಡಿ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಪಾಪ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್ 6 ಇದು 3 ವೇರಿಯಬಲ್ ತೊಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀವಿ ಓಕೆ ನೋಡಿ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬಂತು ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು ಬಟ್ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಗೇನ್ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಹೋಗೋದು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೀವು ಕಮೆಂಟ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟಾಗ ಏನಾಗುತ್ತೆ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಅ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಯುವರ್ ಓನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಅವೈಲೇಬಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಬಟ್ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ವೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಸಾಧ್ಯ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ
ಕಮಾಂಡ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಒಂದು ಸಬ್ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ ಯು ಆರ್ ಟಾಕಿಂಗ್ ವಿತ್ ದ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅದಂದ್ರೆ ಅಪ್ಲಿಕೇಶನ್ ಬರಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅದು
but there are plenty of tools with that. Anything else?
ಇದು ಟೈಮ್ ಸೀರೀಸ್ ಎಲ್ಲ
ಇದೆ everything time series panel data and another one logic model ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರಾ have you heard of logic probit model?
Yes, sir.
So where your dependent variable becomes binary, so through that also you can able to estimate the model. No, this is a dummy variable equation because of due to shortage of time.
Dummy variable no that.
Kalsi.
ರೆಡಿ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ವಾರ್ಮೆಟ್ ಹಾಕೋಣ
it's not a standard.
ಸರ್ಟಿಫಿಕೇಟ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ
Real picture. We just tried it. Real picture.
ಏನ್ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ ನೀವು ಮಾಡಬೇಡಿ, ನೀವು ಮಾಡಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಎಡಿಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೆ ಕೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಅದು ಮಾಡಿ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀರ. ಅದೇ ಎಲ್ಲಿ 15 ದಿನ ಹಾಕಿಲ್ಲ ಕೇಳ್ತಿರಲ್ಲ, ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೆ ಸಣ್ಣರಿಗೆ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕು ಎಲ್ಲರೂ. ಹಾಂ ರೀ, ಸಣ್ಣರಿಗೆ ಔಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೊಡ್ಬೇಕ್ರಿ. ಹಾಂ ಹೇಳಿ. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಟೋಟಲ್ ಸಿ ಎ ಮಾತಾಡಿದ್ರೆ 18 ತಗೋಬಾರ್ದ.